Chapter 82 Part 2 Inside the Moon Pavilion, King of Qi's Mansion. Second Miss, Beitang Zixuan is about to become the Duke's main wife. As Feng Zhiqiang's personal little servant, Kaihong cautiously asked. I never thought that she would be the one to get the position of the King of Qi's first wife. Feng Zhiqiang's eyes were sinister as she angrily smashed the cup with her hand. Second Miss, so what if you're the main wife? Isn't it so? The one King of Qi Highness loves the most is you. When Kaihong saw that she was angry, she immediately smiled apologetically and flattered her. Wrong, Kaihong. He has never loved me in his heart. I think he loves himself the most. Feng Zhiqiang two-chaptered her abdomen. She had seen her happiness many times before, but failed to have a son, so she went to a doctor in private, only to receive an answer that made her hate him for life. She would never be able to give birth to her own chapter-child. She had thought that it might be Feng Zhiyao who bribed the imperial physician, but she had begged her cousin to find out, so it wasn't Feng Zhiyao who caused her to lose her fertility, it was her beloved person who didn't give her the chapterance to bear his son. Especially in these past few days, he hadn't come to her moon pavilion for a long time. Whi chapter made her a little disappointed. She had always thought that the woman he loved most was her. It seemed that she had overestimated herself. Kaihong, did you hear anything? Feng Zhiqiang only felt that there seemed to be some rustling sound next to her ear. No. I didn't hear it. Kaihong listened carefully, as if there was a little sound, but she forced herself to calm down. Ah! Feng Zhiqiang turned around slightly, and saw that dead snakes were hung all over the wall, and there was even a thick deer whip hanging right in the middle of them. Second Miss, these things are so disgusting. Woo! After all, Kaihong was still young, she was actually scared to the point of crying. Hurry up and send someone to call King of Qi Highness over to take a look. Let him also send someone to investigate, to see Whi chapter's shameless woman actually sent someone to do Su chapter a disgusting thing. Feng Zhiqiang was so frightened that she retreated step by step towards the door. She didn't dare to look at the disgusting and bloody thing on the wall. She closed her eyes and tried her best to remain calm as she commanded coldly. Second Miss. Servant, this servant will immediately. Kaihong quickly pushed open the door and quickly ran out. Rainbow asked the butler, and found out that King of Qi Highness had gone to the butterfly garden to stay the night. Kaihong Rainbow did not dare to delay her and immediately ran to the butterfly garden. However, the girl at the door coldly looked at her and said, It's fine if you want me to go in and report. Bring me some silver. Kaihong had no chapterois but to take out some crushed silver and give it to the girl. She thought better of it, once Second Miss made her mark, her silver would naturally come back. Just a simple message the little girl brought back caused Kaihong to be angered to the point of spitting blood. The King of Qi Highness actually did not care and only said that it was a small matter. When Feng Zhiqiang heard King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei's reply, she became extremely angry. Did he really think that she was easy to bully? Okay, she was currently good as his secondary wife, and that was also the emperor's personal title. Her father was good as the prime minister, yet Xianyuan Haofei treated her like that. Kaiyun, take a bag and put this thick deer whip in a bag. I don't believe that King of Qi Highness still has the mood to fool around with a fox spirit from a brothel after seeing this. Feng Zhiqiang's eyes were scarlet red, her tears were speckling as she bit her lips and ordered, her tone sounding extremely serious. Second Miss, this servant. Servant. I dare not. When Kaihong saw those disgusting things, she was scared out of her wits. Even if you don't dare, you must at least dare to float in the vast ocean. Don't you want to stay with me anymore? Don't think that I don't know about you using your power to bully others. Go, do it properly for me. Otherwise, if I am unhappy, I will betroth you to the housekeeper's silly son. Humph. Feng Zhiqiang frowned. Damn, she couldn't even handle a little girl, what was she doing as the secondary wife of the King of Qi? How would she be able to fight with Beitang Zixuan in the future? To think that she thought Beitang Zixuan was a good sister and had resorted to Su chapter a crafty chapterim to steal Feng Zhiqiang's man. Only, Feng Zhiqiang had forgotten whose man she stole before. Yes, it was. Second miss, your servant understands. Your servant will do it right away. Kai Hong smiled in embarrassment. She was actually scared to death, but when she thought of the foolish son of the butler of King of Qi's residence, she couldn't help but shiver. However, she still had to do it. Kai Hong shook her small hands and placed the disgusting deer whip back into the cloth bag before following Feng Zhiqiang. As she walked step by step, she finally arrived at the gate of the butterfly courtyard. Go inside and report. Tell them that this side's concubine has arrived. Feng Zhiqiang covered her nose with the handgear chapterif, that thing was too smelly. King of Qi Highness is with my lady butterfly. It doesn't seem like a good idea for this servant to go and report this, said the girl, annoyed by the coarseness of the gatekeeper. What's the matter with the concubine? King of Qi Highness was not their most favorite wife yet. What did you say? Feng Zhiqiang was furious. Was a little brat giving her face just because she wasn't favored recently? No, she wanted to rise. Esteemed imperial concubine Feng, my wife is currently attending her bed. If you go now, it won't be too convenient. Since this girl had received benefits from Lady Butterfly, her heart naturally belonged to Lady Butterfly. What? Sleep? It's not convenient. Kai Hong, slap. Feng Zhiqiang could no longer hold it back, the flames in her body rushed to the door of her brain, and coldly ordered. Yes, master. In front of outsiders, Kai Hong called out to her master, and with that, she swiftly rushed to the girl and slapped her more than 10 times. Someone, come. Esteemed Wang Fei thinks too highly of her life. She wants to beat this servant to death, the coarse lass shouted loudly, but she only shouted half a sentence before a cloth was stuffed into her mouth by Feng Zhiqiang with a wave of her hand. Mistress? Kai Hong was shocked by Feng Zhiqiang's actions. What is there to be so surprised about? This kind of lowly girl, her death is not worthy of lament. Feng Zhiqiang pouted. When she was in her good times before, there were so many people who came to flatter her, but now that he had been away from Moon Pavilion for a few days already, did they really think that she lost? What's there to look at? Let's go. Feng Zhiqiang looked at the pit-chapter black night sky and urged Kai Hong on. Kai Hong looked at Feng Zhiqiang's back, and only felt that her entire body was cold, and that her hands and feet were cold. Entering the butterfly garden, they didn't see any of the servant girls. They probably knew that the King of Qi Highness was fond of their wife, so they tactfully left. In the silent night, Feng Zhiqiang could clearly hear the wide and delicate voices of men and women inside. However, her heart chaptered as she listened. This was the man she wholeheartedly wanted to follow. She didn't even hesitate to force her to her death. She even willingly gave her the body of a virgin. Tears blurred her eyes. She had always known that Xianyuan Haofei had many women, and she had never dreamed of having a couple in her entire life. However, when the two were so sweet, she could not help but look forward to him being together with other women, and the one she loved in her heart was still her, Feng Zhiqiang. It was just that she was wrong, she was wrong, she was wrong. All her youth, she had waited so many years for in front of these lustful voices, and it was simply laughable. So the one at fault was herself. She was too self-righteous. No, it's not like that. He loved her. No, she wanted to prove that he loved her. With a gloomy face, she took the deer whip bag from Kai Hong in her hand. Step by step, she walked forward, one step at a time, until she chaptered the door where he and she were having fun together. Your Highness, I still want more, little Demoness, you're so tight, this king feels so comfortable. Her tears couldn't help but fall as her steps became as heavy as gold. Her heart felt as though it was being pressed down by a mountain, and the pain made it hard for her to breathe. The wind blew past her, blowing her messy hair. The moonlight shone down onto her pale face, contrasting with her beautiful face that looked like a mandala in the wind, making her seem even more devilish. Anger. With all her might, she ruthlessly kicked open the red lacquered wooden door. The moonlight poured in, shining on the messy bed inside. A man and a woman snaked around like two snakes. Qiong. Xian Yuan Haofei was surprised. What was Feng Zhiqiong doing here when he was having fun with the beautiful woman? Didn't he tell her to take care of the matter herself? Feng Zhiqiong laughed coldly, and threw the deer whip that was in the sack onto her bed along with him. Immediately, Xian Yuan Haofei withered, because his lust was gone. Yes, how would you feel if you were thrown a bloody deer whip and a strip of cloth in the midst of your high passion? A hint of bloodlust flashed across Xian Yuan Haofei's dark and handsome face. He already chaptered out to push away the beautiful woman on his body, and immediately put on his pants as he coldly reprimanded her. Qiong, do you know what you're doing? Seeing that she was Su Mian's direct cousin, he admitted that he was unlucky, but she could avoid death, and hard to escape from punishment. Big brother Hao, you've violated your oath to me. Feng Zhiqiong's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at him pitifully. When Madame Butterfly, who was at the side, saw that Feng Xinyang had come to her courtyard to cause trouble, she was naturally furious in her heart. Thus, she immediately threw herself into Xian Yuan Haofei's embrace, crying and crying. Your Highness, Imperial concubine Feng is doing this on purpose. You said it already. Tonight, all of your time is mine, woo. Mrs. Butterfly came from a brothel. She knew that allure and chapter yen could coexist together, so she cried perfectly right now. Her weeping sounds were like a stream splashing against a rock, making it even more beautiful. Mrs. Butterfly's crying made Xian Yuan Haofei's heart soften. He had spent a huge sum of money to buy Mrs. Butterfly back from the brothel with great difficulty, but he had not had the time to properly savor her tears. Qiong, apologize. Xian Yuan Haofei hugged Mrs. Butterfly tightly. The gentleness in his eyes was really annoying. No, how can I, a secondary wife, apologize to my concubine? Humph. Feng Zhiqiong had never thought that Xian Yuan Haofei could be so indiscriminate with his words. Did he really forget about the power that she represented? Or had he wiped out all their friendship? My prince, there's no need for big sister secondary concubine to apologize to this servant. This servant's identity is low, it's not worth it. Woo woo, your highness, as long as you love me, it's fine. Mrs. Dai saw Feng Zhiqiong's expression that made her so angry that she wanted to strip her hair off. She was very pleased in her heart. That kind of woman could only be a side concubine, one that could not even chapter a man's heart. She was so stupid. Lady Butterfly's move of retreating to advancing actually made Xian Yuan Haofei have a whole new level of respect for her. He felt that not only was this woman extremely intelligent, she was also very understanding, and he wondered how many times better she was than Feng Zhiqiong. Therefore, he said in a pitying manner, let's go. I'll bring you to the pool. We'll continue with the wonderful thing that happened just now. When Mrs. Butterfly heard this, she was overjoyed. The washing pool was a good place, and the water inside was warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Therefore, she blushed and said tenderly, I will prepare a chapterange of clothes. You'll look the best if you don't wear it, haha. How could Xian Yuan Haofei allow her to prepare any kind of clothes? He only carried her and quickly swept past Feng Zhiqiong's side. Without even looking at Feng Zhiqiong once, he carried the other woman and left right under her nose. Kai Hong looked at Feng Zhiqiong, who was stunned on the spot, secretly afraid. Who knows how Feng Zhiqiong will cause a ruckus later. Kai Hong, prepare the carriage, I want to make a trip to Prime Minister's mansion now. Feng Zhiqiong gritted her teeth until they creaked. Is it now? It's already very late. Yes, now is the time. Feng Zhiqiong closed her eyes. She was her father's daughter after all, and she hoped to be able to receive help. Chapter 82 Part 3 It took a long time before Situ Yele was willing to let Feng Zhiao go. Yele, aren't you tired? He was always as fierce as a tiger. When I'm with you, there's only happiness and no fatigue. Situ Yele hugged her soft and delicate body and laughed. You're so annoying. Feng Zhiao pouted coquettishly and laughed, but seeing that her clear and crystal-clear eyes were filled with the chapter arm of ice and jade, her beautiful eyebrows were raised in the morning sunlight, her watery eyes were pressed against her rosy lips, and even using all the brush and ink in the world, it was impossible to describe her current graceful and chapter-arming appearance. Yaoer, I like you to be like this, coquettish and cute. Situ Yele hugged her and kissed her face. Alright. It's getting late, hurry up and leave. Feng Zhiao urged her, she could not let her father cat chapter her with Situ Yele, as Father Feng had high hopes for Wen Xingyuan. I really don't like the look of having a guilty conscience. Sigh, I'll marry you home sooner. Situ Yele frowned, his face was filled with regret. Come on, hurry up and settle your marriage contract, stop blabbering in front of me. Feng Zhiao laughed and patted his chapterist and raised her eyebrows. Alright, I'll be going back first. Sleep for a while more. Situ Yele gazed at her body lovingly, he was so tired that he didn't want to leave, he felt like all of his energy had been squeezed dry by her. After Situ Yele left, Feng Zhiao sat cross-legged. Suddenly, she felt an endless flow of true energy flow out of her body, as light as a feather. Suddenly, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Am I really overindulging myself? Feng Zhiao was worried, she wouldn't be able to sleep next, so she put on her clothes and memorized all the martial arts manuals at the bottom of her heart. Then she threw up twice more, and when it was close to dawn, she was completely at ease, but she could not resist the torrent of sleep, and immediately fell asleep. September 24th, Linghu Zi Chaptir waited for her outside the pavilion that was covered in green willow trees with his umbrella. Eldest senior brother, let's go. We've already waited for nearly 2 hours. That Lady Feng will definitely not come. Although Zhongzheng Shaoqing said it on the surface, in his heart, he was still a little looking forward to it. Eldest senior brother, it's raining so heavily, she definitely won't come out to send you off. Shen Qinghan pulled open the carriage curtain and shouted to Linghu Zi Chaptir who was inside the rain. She didn't want to see that woman. She wanted to advise eldest senior brother to return as soon as possible. If he stayed here, he would be led astray by that woman sooner or later. Just as Linghu Zi Chaptir was disappointed, Feng Zhiao came over in the carriage. Zhongzheng Shaoqing naturally saw it too. At this moment, he also felt a bit of joy in his heart. However, when he saw his junior sister laughing and chapteratting with him, he reminded himself once again that the person he liked was his junior sister. This time, the rain became smaller. That small silk-like rain fell from the sky, the raindrops were so small, the curtain of rain was so dense, it was as if the mountains were covered with a white gauze like a cicada's wings. Rain like fog like rain, wisps of continuous entanglement. Feng Zhiao frowned, she looked at the rain and thought, this kind of rotten weather, sure enough, it's going to rain, the beautiful man was going to leave. Yaoer, did you come to send me off? Linghu Zi Chaptir couldn't believe his eyes at all. He thought he had seen wrongly. I promised you yesterday, I won't break my promise. Feng Zhiao wanted to get down from the carriage. However, she was immediately hugged by Linghu Zi Chaptir into his embrace, causing Feng Zhiao to be stunned. She, who was wearing red clothes and carrying white clothes, flew towards the corner of their clothes with the wind from the rain, drawing a beautiful curve amidst the fluttering of the rain. Yaoer, you came to send me off, why didn't you tell me before coming here alone? What if you meet a bad person along the way? Wen Xingyuan's voice came clearly from afar. Feng Zhiao raised her head to look, only to see a luxurious carriage running on the official road. From the luxurious look, it had to be the number 1 family. Xingyuan? Feng Zhiao didn't expect that Wen Xingyuan would actually come to send her off. Suddenly, she laughed to herself secretly, thinking that she had forgotten that Linghu Zichaptir stayed in the Fengyun Hotel earlier and that the Fengyun Hotel was the biggest tavern in the Wen family. It was normal for Wen Xingyuan to know that he was leaving. Wen Xingyuan said in a calm voice, Zichaptir, Shaoqing, Qinghan, have a safe journey. Hearing that his good friend had arrived, Linghu Zichaptir immediately put Feng Zhiao down. The P-chapter blossom eyes revealed a smile. Thank you for seeing us out. Feng Zhiao chapteruckled, and said in a clear voice, we're friends, it's something that we should do. Suddenly, she laughed, where is your junior sister? Why don't you dare come out and meet me? Who said I don't dare to come out and meet you? Shen Qinghan was provoked by Feng Zhiao as her small face darkened. As expected, she could not take it anymore. She immediately lifted the curtain of the horse carriage and jumped down from the carriage. When are you coming to the Xianyang to play again? Feng Zhiao had held up the oil paper umbrella above her head a step ahead of her, preventing her from getting wet. What are you doing here? Even the eldest senior brother is going to be taken away by you. I'm not coming anymore. Shen Qinghan laughed coldly, then laughed as if she had chapter-arranged her attitude. Big brother Xingyuan, was the lady you hugged so good last time? Did you like her a lot? After Feng Zhiao heard this, she immediately confirmed that Shen Qinghan did this on purpose. Her only purpose was to anger her. But how did Shen Qinghan know that she was her, that's all? It was a waste of time. Yes, I do like her. I can't wait to marry her right now. When Xingyuan looked at Feng Zhiao with deep and loving eyes, and said without concealing it at all. However, how could Shen Qinghan know that the two of them were originally the same person? Therefore, Shen Qinghan covered her mouth and laughed, that lady sure is lucky, she doesn't look like someone who abandoned his wife's life. Damn, she said that Feng Zhiao was an abandoned wife's life. ND, it looks like this Shen Qinghan really deserves a beating. Xingyuan, listen to her. After Feng Zhiao heard this, she was silent for a moment, then pulled Wen Xingyuan's hand and said. I didn't say anything bad about you. Shen Qinghan said smugly, but only because she lost 2 Mu chapter last night, so she had to take it back no matter what. Junior sister, don't argue with Yaoer again. It's time for us to go. Linghu Zichaptir looked at when Xingyuan holding the umbrella and Feng Zhiao's shoulder was being embraced by him. It was a beautiful picture no matter what, but in the eyes of the other 2 beautiful women, it was glaring, and they were at a loss. Eldest senior brother, junior sister, the rain is getting heavier and heavier, let's go. Zhongzheng Shaoqing glanced at Linghu Zichaptir and Shen Qinghan who were standing in the rain and asked. Big brother Zichaptir, I made this cake for you so early in the morning, I hope you like it. It was to do these for you that I arrived 2 hours late. Feng Zhiao instructed Ziyun to take a red lacquered food box from her carriage, and handed it over to her with a smile. Thank you, Yaoer. Linghu Zichaptir didn't think that he would receive Suchaptir a gift before he left. I've made 3 people's portion, you can have it together. Feng Zhiao laughed. This smile made Shen Qinghan's teeth it chapter in hatred, thinking, she definitely cannot use any better methods, there was no need for food to seduce her eldest senior brother. I don't want to eat it. Shen Qinghan coldly snorted. Little sister Qinghan, why are you still angry at me? Feng Zhiao chapter-changed into a warm attitude and even took the initiative to walk over. Leaving the rain, he held Shen Qinghan's small hand and quickly pierced it with his finger. However, Shen Qinghan retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted, and said angrily, don't be so intimate with me, I'm not too familiar with you. Strange, why does her hand feel a sharp pain just now? That's right, I'm unfamiliar so I'm not familiar. However, I still wish you a pleasant journey and fall into the river halfway. Feng Zhiao moved closer to her ear and whispered more and more softly. Perhaps the rain was too loud, the others didn't hear what the 2 girls were saying to EA chapter other. In the end, the rain was too heavy. Linghu Zichaptir and the rest sat on the horse carriage and left. Yaoer, stop looking, everyone has left. Wen Xingyuan's voice contained a trace of obvious anger. All right, farewell, it's time for me to leave as well. Feng Zhiyao laughed as she walked into the rain, and bid farewell to him. The rain had drenched her clothes, outlining her beautiful curves, and he could not help but feel his eyes burning with passion when he saw her. His woman's body was simply too beautiful, and he had the impulse to do it to her again. Yaoer, come back in my carriage. Wen Xingyuan propped the oil paper umbrella on her head once again. No need, Xingyuan, I really have to take my leave. Feng Zhiyao hadn't forgotten the kiss on her face from the 300 rounds she had fought with Situ Yele last night. Those were indisputable evidence, so she could only dodge as far as she could. So fast. Then I will ride with you in your carriage. Then, when Xingyuan ordered Zhang Yi to take the carriage and leave. Thus, Feng Zhiyao helplessly faced Wen Xingyuan, who had already been instructed to sit beside Wan Sanzi, the COA chapterman. Yaoer, why aren't you saying anything? Was your wet clothes making you uncomfortable? These blue and purple kisses of yours don't seem like they were left by me a few days ago. Wen Xingyuan then saw the faint light and finally saw the kiss mark on her collarbone. He was puzzled, but a sinister look quickly flashed past his warm and handsome face. Chapter 83 Part 1 Wen Xingyuan said, those blue and purple kiss marks don't seem like they were left by me a few days ago. After hearing what she said, Feng Zhiyao's clear eyes drooped, her heart was in turmoil, her clothes were already wet, but now they were more like a jade white lotus standing in the water, beautiful and elegant. She unhurriedly wrung her clothes, then raised her eyebrows and smiled. What do you want to ask? Is there another man besides me? Wen Xingyuan never thought that she would still be able to smile at Su chapter a time. Feng Zhiyao yawned lazily, her eyes closed, allowing Wen Xingyuan to vent his anger. Whatever, don't wear wet clothes. Wear my robe first. Although Wen Xingyuan felt pain in his heart, he couldn't bear to speak of her as her body was completely drenched. After all, she was the only woman that tempted his heart in his entire life. Perhaps she was the only one who could make him endure it again and again. Thank you. Feng Zhiyao did not hesitate and immediately opened her eyes, took it, and draped it over her shoulders. Yaoer, why are you so courteous with me? Wen Xingyuan leaned in front of Feng Zhiyao with his handsome face, bent his head, and said lightly. Yaoer, do you hate me? When Wen Xingyuan thought of this, he became extremely worried. No, you think too much. Chapter. Feng Zhiyao lifted the curtain of the carriage, and it seemed that the rain had stopped. That's good. That's right, Yaoer, I will send you straight back to the Prime Minister's mansion. I just so happen to want to talk to your father about some things related to us. When Xingyuan Arye chaptered out his large hand and wrapped around her small hand as he softly asked. No, I won't be going back to Prime Minister's mansion for now. I want to make a trip to Tsuha House. Feng Zhiyao shook her head, thinking, what else can he discuss with Father Feng? It was most likely something like sending her to Wen family in a bag. Oh right, Yaoer, what is your relationship with the Tsuha House? How did you become the young miss of Tsuha House? Wen Xingyuan asked curiously. What a coincidence. Feng Zhiyao only said these 4 words. She did not want to talk about the relationship between her and the Tsuha House. Yaoer, your words are getting more and more mysterious. I really don't understand you. After he finished speaking, when Xingyuan sighed, his gaze was fixated on her butterfly collarbone. It's better to remain mysterious. Don't you like me like this? Feng Zhiyao suddenly smiled chapter-armingly, making Wen Xingyuan feel like she was a beauty who had the power to topple nations. I like it, as long as it's Yaoer, I like it too. The tenderness in Wen Xingyuan's eyes was not fake. Alright, you said it. I want to sleep now. As soon as Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, he leaned against Wen Xingyuan's chapterist and fell into a deep sleep. The rolling white pigeons caused Wen Xingyuan's handsome face to redden, and he once again thought of that night at the side of the Spring Festival Gala where the two of them struggled to survive. Feng Zhiyao was really too tired to think that she would actually sleep until night. When she woke up again, she was already lying on Begonia Garden's bed. "Eldest miss, you've awoken." It was Zi Yun's voice. After Feng Zhiyao heard this, she frowned and asked, "How did I return to Begonia Garden?" She remembered that she wanted to go to Tsuha House this afternoon. The Wen family lord said that you fell asleep and directly asked the carriage driver to pull you back to Prime Minister's mansion. Furthermore, he even saw the old master. After Ziyun finished speaking, she secretly laughed. "Do you know what he said to my father?" Feng Zhiyao was shocked. Could this be what she was thinking? How can this servant know the specifics? However, according to the servants, when the Wen family lord walked out of the main entrance, he seemed to be in an extremely good mood. Ziyun tried her best to recall. "Sigh, it's ruined, ruined." Feng Zhiyao almost raised her head and sighed. Did Wen Xingyuan already tell Father Feng about the matter between her and him? "Eldest miss, what is destroyed?" Ziyun didn't understand why she had to shout her head down. "No. I'm hungry." Feng Zhiyao felt that she had missed her Luan chapter. "Eldest miss, I'll tell you something that will relieve my anger." Ziyun whispered. "What is it?" "Just say it, what are you trying to pull it off so secretively for?" Feng Zhiyao laughed and asked. "Miss, I heard that second miss returned to Prime Minister's mansion last night, but was chapter-aced out of the house by Master. Master only said a few words, you better take care of yourself." Ziyun treated this matter as a joke and told it to Feng Zhiyao. "I think he must have suffered at the King of Qi's residence." Feng Zhiyao guessed. A life of S-chapter-reaming and S-chapter-reaming is definitely not an easy one. Ziyun laughed. "That's right. Ziyun is smart. If I ever meet your master, I will have to ask him to pay for your tuition." Feng Zhiyao laughed and ridiculed. After Ziyun heard this, she was petrified. As for Feng Zhilin, after being beaten up by the imperial concubine Duan and returning back to the Juhua Palace, she was extremely furious in her heart. After waiting for the nanny Rong to get busy with other things, Zhu'er carefully walked to Feng Zhilin's side and whispered, "Little lord, when the emperor has spoiled you, what are you afraid of the imperial concubine Duan?" "Zhu'er, I've been in the palace for several days already, and I haven't even seen the emperor's shadow." Feng Zhilin was annoyed when she thought of this. "Young master, this servant heard that after the emperor goes to court, he will walk through the imperial garden to take care of matters there. Then, we can go to the imperial garden and wait for the emperor." Zhu'er thought. "That's a good idea. I'll try it." When Feng Zhilin thought about how she was punished by the imperial concubine Duan to kneel down for 4 hours because of a shitty rule, it made her legs go numb. On the next day, when the sun shone brightly, Feng Zhilin dressed up meticulously and brought Zhu'er to the imperial garden to wait for Xianyuan Kong. But Xianyuan Kong did not wait. This was the first time Feng Zhilin saw the crown prince, Xianyuan Hao Chapteran. She was even prettier than King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei by a few points. At this moment, she could feel her own heart beating rapidly. The crown prince, Xianyuan Hao Chapteran, was annoyed by the officials in the imperial court who were talking about him consuming the 5-stone powder, so he came to take a breather in the imperial garden. Unexpectedly, at this moment, he saw a beauty. But why did this beauty look so familiar? Where have I seen it before? Ah, he remembered, that time at the Blue Festival's banquet, this brave woman took the initiative to confess to Royal Father, and only then was she conferred the title of Noble Madam Lin by Royal Father. However, the woman was dressed extravagantly, and her sleeves were made wider than usual, rustling in the wind. Her waist was tight, and beneath her was a long skirt embroidered with white magnolia. A jade hairpin hung with a strand of silver tassels, a beautiful heart-shaped face, a small, straight nose, curved, willow leaf-like eyebrows, thin lips, and thick, silky black hair. It gently fell down to the ground and a cozy expression appeared on her face, along with a smile that wasn't a smile, as she strolled into the imperial garden with her servant. Beautiful girl, you're so beautiful. Due to the incident with the 5-stone powder, Xianyuan Hao Chapterin had caused him to be in a bad mood. It had been a few days since he last two-chaptered a girl, and now that he saw the meticulously dressed Feng Jilin, a hint of shock flashed past his eyes. Who are you? Feng Jilin had originally been waiting for Xianyuan Kong, but who would have thought that a black-hearted wolf would actually come? Do you really not know who I am? Xianyuan Hao Chapterin laughed sinisterly. He extended his pure white fingers and pin-chaptered Feng Jilin's lower jaw, then used his free hand to quickly tap on Zhuer's acupoint. Crown Prince, you are the Crown Prince. Why are you two-chaptering Zhuer's acupoints? Feng Jilin was extremely shocked. Although she did not understand politics, she had heard the rumors of the Crown Prince being shameless. That was why, at this moment, all of the goosebumps on her body dropped to the ground. Since this hall has taken a liking to you, I naturally have to favor you. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin instructed the hidden guards behind him to look at Zhuer as he carried Feng Jilin to a secluded place in the imperial garden. The fake mountain there was very big, and they went into a fake mountain cave. Oh my god! The Crown Prince wanted to favor her. No, no. She hurriedly shook her head. I beg you, Your Highness, I am your royal father's woman, you cannot two-chapter me. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin placed her on the stone bed and gave a chapter-arming smile. Royal father is old, could it be that with your beauty and youth, you truly want to ruin your body to that old man's? There was a hint of regret in his voice, as well as a sigh. Besides, I am the Crown Prince. When my royal father dies, wouldn't the Nan Shao's world be mine? You should be familiar with the Nan Shao's system of burial. A concubine without a chapterilde will be buried with her. Do you want to die so soon in a grave? Xianyuan Hao Chapterin slowly said, his eyes full of desire falling on Feng Jilin's curvy face. No, she did not want to die. She wanted to stand at the peak of power. She wanted to live. She wanted to properly protect her mother. Mother was still waiting for her to bring glory to her ancestors. Beauty, don't worry about it. If you submit to me, I will bestow you one of the 4 palaces after I become the great treasure. It's still better than if you're a noble madam. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin naturally did not want to force her to be happy with him. To be happy together was something that he would only feel comfortable with if he was willing to do it with her, only then would he be satisfied with his important parts. Feng Jilin felt that her heart was thumping hard. Beauty, could it be that my appearance does not enter your eyes? Xianyuan Hao Chapterin's gentle and chapter-arming voice sounded beside Feng Jilin's ears. No. No. His Highness the Crown Prince is extremely beautiful and is one of the most beautiful men in the world. Feng Jilin blushed deeply as she spoke. In terms of appearance, she valued him greatly as well, but when she thought about how she was now his father's noble Madam Lin, how could she do that with him? Beauty, I also like you very much chapter. Look at your chapterist, your butt, everything looks flawless. It makes my heart a chapter. As he spoke, he Arye chaptered out to two-chapter that place. This caused Feng Jilin to tremble. No, Your Highness, I can't. Her sweet and gentle voice was like the clear cry of an oriole. Beauty, you should think it over. Do you want to follow me or my royal father? Xianyuan Hao Chapterin suddenly walked over, both of his arms tightly locking her delicate body. He leaned beside her exquisite earlobes and took a deep breath. If she used it properly, then she could also succeed and leap up. After having thought of this, she smiled coquettishly. Very good. There was no point in forcing him out. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin's slender phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and with 70% laziness and 30% evilness, he caressed his slender white fingers. He thought to himself, women all admire vanity, but to be able to take the initiative, of course he would enjoy. As a result, Feng Jilin slowly took off her long skirt, chapterist, and underpants. Her perfect figure was instantly exposed in the air, and mottled sunlight shone through the gaps of the fake mountain cave. She was very happy, because she saw the desire in Xianyuan Hao Chapteren's eyes and it burned up little by little. She was very confident that her body, as well as her virginity, would be able to make him take great care of her. Afterwards, she slowly walked to his side and removed the light yellow crown prince's brocade clothes, revealing his male body. It was very beautiful, very grand, very spectacular. Her skin that was as white as snow did not have the slightest bit of fat. Her muscles were smooth, sexy, and enticing. The girl in his embrace had a mesmerizing beauty to her. Her heart-shaped face, willowy eyebrows, and the eyes of the underground lake of autumn were alluring due to lust. Her chapterary lips were parted and her breathing quickened as she exhaled like ore chapterids. Her soft and boneless body was wrapped around the man like a vine, and she smiled like an expert on demonic artifacts. Suddenly, Xianyuan Hao Chapteren deliberately stopped. "Your Highness, don't. Again. Linner. Linner." The soft and chapter-arming voice was like a bug drilling into one's heart, making one's heart itch chapter unbearably. Xianyuan Hao Chapteren chapteruckled upon hearing it, her chapter-arming eyes were filled with a flow of wind and evil qi that caused people's breathing to be consistent. When Feng Zhilin saw that he had greeted her, her face flushed red and her eyes filled with embarrassment. Seeing that it was one thing and another thing was really another. "Linner, my beauty, quickly please me," Xianyuan Hao Chapteren said gently as he looked at her beautiful face. The confidence he did not have from Gu Xianer could be obtained here, so he was naturally overjoyed, and even his voice had softened a bit. The flirtatious cries and pleas swept through the entire cave, shaking the mountains and overturning the seas. It caused people to feel extreme pity for the fairer sex. Everything that happened next went without saying. The son and his father's wife had chaptereved amorous deeds. If the old emperor found out about this, would he vomit blood and die? The shadow guard outside the cave was so angry that blood was coming out of his nose. The crown prince was fierce, how could he be so energetic when he met a girl other than the crown princess? Roughly 2 hours later, the rain and clouds stopped. "Your Highness, Linner is already one of your people, you must chapterish me a little." Feng Zhilin hugged his neck with her tender white arms, her chapter-arming eyes like silk as she said with a pleasant voice. "Beauty, how can I be someone who goes back on my word?" Xianyuan Hao Chapteren lifted his hand and caressed her exquisite face. "This is a bottle of ointment to cover your tracks, before you go back, put it on, otherwise, if royal father finds out, your little life will be gone." "All right, I'll be leaving now. Later I'll have your personal maid come into the cave to wait upon you." Xianyuan Hao Chapteren wrapped his arms around her slender waist, and took out a bottle of ointment from an unknown hidden compartment. "Your Highness, could you accompany Linner for a while longer?" Feng Zhilin said in a spoiled manner. Just now, when she had just tasted the rain, she had felt that it was extremely beautiful. Therefore, she pitifully pulled on his big hand, hoping. "I like obedient women." Xianyuan Hao Chapteren bent over and kissed her neck, then got up and quickly dressed himself. Afterwards, his figure quickly disappeared into the cave. After a while, Feng Zhilin's personal maid, Zhu'er, entered the cave. "Little lord, did that person do anything to you?" Zhu'er worriedly looked at her third young miss, who was also the current noble Madame Lin. That person just now was someone who was below the Nan Shao kingdom, someone who could be considered a king. Feng Zhilin's eyes were filled with worship and infatuation. Just now, the bed skills of the crown prince made her feel extremely comfortable being his woman. Zhu'er jumped in shock. Then, she raised her head and saw that Feng Zhilin's half-naked Bai Ruyu's body was covered with speckles from kissing. She was shocked. Could it be that the third miss and the crown prince were having fun inside the fake mountain cave? Oh my god! The third miss was the emperor's noble Madame Lin and the crown prince was his son. They had chapter a complicated relationship, they. Isn't this nonsense? The forbidding love of legends? Zhu'er was so shocked that she did not move, her heart started to beat faster, "Oh my god, this is a crime of exterminating the whole family, the third young miss is making a big deal out of this. Zhu'er, I have already decided. I will step on 2 boats with the support of the emperor and the crown prince. I cannot give up on both of these." Feng Zhilin then unscrewed the stopper of the bottle and smeared the cream white ointment on the kiss mark on her body. She couldn't REA chapter it, and even asked Zhu'er to smear it on. "Third miss, it's been a long time. Aren't you afraid that something might happen?" Zhu'er could not help but sweat for her. "Alright, tidy up my hair and quickly head back to Juhua Palace. If the old lady from Nanny Rong asks about it later, you can say that you saw the chapterary blossoms in the imperial garden and forgot the time and leave it to me." It was really hard to deal with that Nanny Rong. After all, Nanny Rong was the person sent by the imperial concubine Duan to serve her. "Understood, this servant will be careful." Zhu'er immediately observed her words, thinking that the third miss had been like a sister to her since chapterhood. If not for the third miss, she would have exposed her identity a long time ago. Therefore, Zhu'er's loyalty to Feng Zhilin was incomparable. "That's good. Hurry up and help me wipe it evenly. Don't let anyone see any traces of it. If you're lucky enough to sleep tonight, then what?" Feng Zhilin's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, she wasn't looking forward to attending to the servants like before. After all, she had already done the matters of Wu Shan and Yu Feng with the young man. If it was the old emperor instead, it would be hard for her to accept it. What's more, she wasn't a virgin at the moment. If the emperor discovered that she wasn't, wouldn't her head fall to the ground like before? What should he do? "Third miss, there is no need to worry. There is a fake virgin blood drop, what are you afraid of?" Zhu'er told Feng Zhilin about the news she had gathered from their conversation. That's the only way. And it's still Zhu'er's, careful thought. Feng Zhilin smiled in satisfaction. As for Feng Zhiyao, she rested at home for a few days. It was supposed to be a beauty sleep, but it was actually to rest. She was really afraid of the consequences of her excessive indulgence. September 30th, sunny, cloudless, a fine day for a trip. "Eldest miss, you've slept at home for several days. Your servant knows that the weather is very good today. Do you want to go out for a walk?" After Zi Yun helped her wash, she asked with a smile. "It's time to go out for a stroll. By the way, do you remember what day it is?" Feng Zhiyao asked with a smile. Her smile was resplendent and alluring. "Eldest miss, did you ask His Highness King of Jing to discuss about the opening ceremony?" Ziyun shouted as if she thought of something. "Ziyun, quickly get Wan Sanzi to prepare the car, I am going to the first soup restaurant in Xianyang." Feng Zhiyao said impatiently after quickly finishing a bowl of porridge and a pear blossom knife. Chapter 83 Part 3 It took them an hour to arrive at the door of Xianyang's number 1 soup store. Xianyuan Haoyu was already waiting for her in the private room on the 2nd floor. "Yaoer, you're here." Xianyuan Haoyu thought that Feng Zhiyao had forgotten about this matter. "Of course, I'm not confused about the matter of earning silver." The meaning of Feng Zhiyao's words was, "Don't trick me, I have a very high sensitivity towards silver." "Oh right, everything has been prepared. What do you think about opening tomorrow?" Xianyuan Haoyu looked at Feng Zhiyao with blazing eyes, and asked. "It's quite good. Have you let anyone take a look? Is tomorrow a good day?" Feng Zhiyao thought of an extremely important question, and asked. "What news of this matter?" Even an elegant and noble man like Xianyuan Haoyu would not be able to avoid the wind. It's not like they were getting married. It must be an auspicious day. I'm not sure yet. In front of her, he still called himself no. He shook his head slightly, his eyes filled with tenderness, like a man who had fallen in love. "Just you wait, I'll go downstairs and ask the shopkeeper myself." "Is it a lucky day tomorrow?" Feng Zhiyao immediately stood up, stopped drinking her tea, and walked out the door with small steps, going downstairs. When Ziyun saw that Feng Zhiyao had left, she felt really awkward. Should she continue staying here, or quickly follow the big miss downstairs? Your young miss will soon come upstairs. This is the latest chapter of the martial arts world. Xianyuan Haoyu raised his head, and after sweeping his eyes across Ziyun's face for a second, he said this indifferently. Oh. Ziyun thought, this lord had once said that King of Jing and King of Qin were both outstanding, and could be considered as dragons amongst men. At this moment, she quickly glanced at Xianyuan Haoyu from the corner of her eyes, and then quickly retracted her gaze. You should be clear about the close relationship between me and your young miss, so this king does not care about what your master wants you to do to Yaoer. This king will firmly Shaptarus to love and protect her. Xianyuan Haoyu gave her a slight glance, causing Ziyun to feel an unprecedented fear. Dressed in snow-white clothes, with eyes like a formidable force field that could topple mountains and overturn the seas, he was also like the sun god, the master of all things in the world. Whi chapter was noble, elegant, and dazzling to the point where no one dared to look him in the eye. This servant is just an ordinary slave, King of Jing is too worried. Ziyun tried her best to suppress the trace of fear in her heart, and said with a smile as she raised her eyes. Well, tomorrow is a lucky day. Then let's set a date for the opening tomorrow. Feng Zhiyao chapteruckled as she lifted her skirt and walked over. Very good. Xianyuan Haoyu nodded. Yaoer, I have something to say with you alone. Can you let your personal girl take a step back first? Xianyuan Haoyu glanced at Ziyun and said. Ziyun, then go to the carriage and wait for me there. When you go downstairs, remember to tell the shopkeeper to bring the 2 chapterikins back. Feng Zhiyao laughed, and then instructed Ziyun. Yes, Mississippi. Ziyun smiled and agreed. Actually Ziyun had thought about it, if she was really an ordinary servant girl, then her days would be good. She would be working for the young miss and would not have to follow the rules of the mansion. However, Master told her not to carry out her mission and just to stay by eldest Miss's side. She didn't know what she wanted her to do in the future. Ziyun walked out of the room with a smile on her face, then gracefully walked down the stairs, although she was still deep in thought. Seeing that Ziyun had gone out, Feng Zhiyao asked while smiling, what exactly do you want to say to me alone, to make my personal girl withdraw? Yaoer, did you really not go to Blue Festival's feast? Xianyuan Haoyu looked straight at her chapter-arming face, he looked very carefully, and was not willing to let go of even the slightest of expression. I really didn't pull it. Didn't you know that I made a rumor about me getting sick? How could I go to Su chapter a place? Aren't you afraid that your father and the others would say that I gave them my illness? Seeing him ask that, Feng Zhiyao immediately thought of something and spoke without thinking. Your little mouth is really unreasonable. However, I've not seen you for a few days, so I missed you a lot. Xianyuan Haoyu said emotionally. The gentleness in his black eyes could draw the outline of a rain in the south. Come on, you're going to miss me. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly, she did not believe that a man of the royal family would be infatuated. Yaoer, it's true. Look, this is a small portrait that I carved for you. Xianyuan Haoyu took out a 3-in-chapter-long white jade sculpture from his sleeve. The one engraved on it was Feng Zhiyao, and it could be said to be a work of heaven's work. He's so lifelike, he really looks like me. It's really you. You carved it yourself? Feng Zhiyao did not believe it, one by one noble princes, would they seriously carve with their swords? Of course it's the statue of my wife that I carved myself. Do you like it? Xianyuan Haoyu asked as he gently placed the jade-white sculpture of the beauty in her hand. Of course I like it. Thank you. It was a very special gift, and it had to be said that Xianyuan Haoyu had spent quite a bit of thought for her. Hearing that Feng Zhiyao said that she liked it, Xianyuan Haoyu's mood became extremely good, and her beautiful lips unconsciously curved upwards. Yaoer, it's almost noon. Why don't we have Luan chapter together to create a new world? Xianyuan Haoyu turned his head and looked at the blazing sun outside the window as he spoke. No, I want to return to the Prime Minister's mansion as soon as possible. Today is the day that my elder brother Shu returned from his studies in the Kunlun Mountains, and my father sent someone to inform me that no matter who it is, they must greet him at his doorstep. I'm afraid that I have been delayed here for too long and missed the timing. Feng Zhiyao remembered what Father Feng had said to him after he sent the butler this morning, and quickly used it as an excuse. Is he the eldest son your father is most proud of? Xianyuan Haoyu asked indifferently, thinking, so it turns out that he was coming back. That's right. I even kissed him on the mouth when I was a kid. I wonder what he looks like when he grows up. Feng Zhiyao remembered the steward's words that morning, so she took them out and teased. Never mind what he looks like, she's your brother. You must know your limits when you see him again. Don't go kiss his mouth again. Hearing Su chapter and explosive news, Xianyuan Haoyu's face immediately became gloomy, and his but jumped up in anger as he shouted. Well, let's talk about the story of my chapter, old hood. Is there a need for you to be so excited? Feng Zhiyao glanced at him sideways as she stroked the white jade sculpture of the beauty. Please, she was talking about Feng Zhiyao, the original Feng Zhiyao, it had nothing to do with her. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao once again indicated that Xianyuan Haoyu had gone crazy today. She warned herself not to provoke this partner of hers. In the future, the two of them would coexist peacefully. Of course I'm excited. From now on, I will have to kiss your little mouth. When Xianyuan Haoyu saw her calm and collected gaze, his voice became muchapter softer, but his tone was firm. TSK, I don't have any feelings for siblings. Feng Zhiyao coldly snorted. It was not like she did not know that a close relative would give birth to a fool. Moreover, it was so intimate. Yaoer, stop snorting. You look better when you smile. Xianyuan Haoyu walked around the table and hugged her tightly. Let's go, Ziyun should be waiting anxiously. Feng Zhiyao frowned and wanted to push him away. Unexpectedly, the Xianyuan Haoyu, who hadn't seen her for a long time, was instead provoked to the point of burying his spark. As a result, it burned and burned up, and his eyes were filled with passion, and savagery. Feng Zhiyao's lips were fiercely kissed by him. Xianyuan Haoyu's kiss was overbearing and was practically sucking all of Feng Zhiyao's lungs. Just as Feng Zhiyao was about to suffocate from the kiss, Xianyuan Haoyu released her. He didn't want to use force against her. She was worthy of his best treatment. Since he wanted to use his heart to move her, he would stubbornly wait and move her. Yaoer, your mouth tastes so good that it can't be said. Xianyuan Haoyu looked at Feng Zhiyao, who was standing nearby, and smiled with satisfaction. Xianyuan Haoyu looked at her, and saw that her little face was currently suffused with a light pink, tender, and beautiful lashes, and her petite earlobes. Her pink lips were as tender as a pea-chapter, and her black hair floated around her clear and cold butterfly collarbone as she lightly panted. If it wasn't for his strong self-control, he was really afraid that he would immediately go to bed with her, just like last time. Humph. This man was doing it on purpose. This caused her heart to a chapter. She felt extremely uncomfortable. I almost wanted to kick him. After this romantic interlude ended, Xianyuan Haoyu what-chaptered as she sat in Prime Minister's mansion's carriage and left. Xianyuan Haoyu lifted his hand, stretch-chaptered out his slender, jade-like fingertip and gently pressed against his lips, thinking that there was a unique scent of her here, and felt that he was happy when he kissed her just now. All of a sudden, a black shadow landed right in front of him. What is it? Xianyuan Haoyu stood with his hands behind his back, and asked indifferently. The Crown Prince is secretly engaging in a private salt trade. The investigation is real. The black shadow knelt down and reported. If we report this to Fourth Brother, how will he deal with it? Our people can continue to monitor the coastal manor. Xianyuan Haoyu turned and thought for a moment, then turned and looked at the black figure. All right, I understand. The shadow said. Oh right, why haven't I seen Li Mincan recently? Where is he? Xian Yuan Haoyu thought about Li Mincan, who had a good relationship with him and did a lot of errands for him. Rumor has it that ever since the Blue Festival banquet, he drank 2 mu chapter, and was diagnosed as having liver injuries due to alcohol. He should still be resting in Seoul Chapterace Manor, right? The Black Shadow thought for a while before reporting. This is good as well. There are some things that should be done by our own people. Although Li Mincan's relationship with him was not bad, it made him feel that this person was not easy to control. He rejected all the rewards given to him by even though he was a beauty, truly a weirdo. Yes, King of Jing. The shadow nodded. You can leave now. Xian Yuan Haofei waved his hand lightly. After Feng Zhiyao got on the carriage, she calmed down. Eldest miss, your face is very rosy. Oh wow, it looks a little like a red apple now. Ziyun laughed and teased. Stupid girl, all of you are so talkative. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly. She was really possessed just now, to think that she felt that Xian Yuan Haoyu was very gentle to her. Eldest miss, if we go back at this hour, we won't have any food to eat. It was not that the Prime Minister's mansion did not arrange for servants to cook for Feng Zhiyao on Su chapter a hot day, but it was just that Feng Zhiyao's mouth was a little cruel. Who said we were going to go back and eat? I was just lying to that King of Jing. Wait a moment, let's go to a quiet place beside the Great Jade Lake to get roasted chapteracan for food. When Feng Zhiyao thought about the delicacies, she immediately became happy. Eldest miss, I don't know how to deal with that roasted chapteracan. Ziyun shook her head. Let's talk first, don't let her make a move. Tea chapter, just you and Wan Sanzi wait to eat the delicious roasted chapteracan. Feng Zhiyao pointed at Ziyun's forehead with her slender, white fingers as she spoke. Alright, I'm looking forward to it. Ziyun hugged her knees and laughed dumbly. She didn't need to do it, she was naturally happy. I never thought that someone as lazy as me would actually want to do it personally for a delicacy. Woo woo. Feng Zhiyao glared at Ziyun in displeasure. Very quickly, they arrived at the Great Jade Lake side. They were able to smell the fresh and elegant fragrance of the lotus flowers, and it was rather refreshing and cool. They chapteros a quiet spot and 2 women and a man squatted on the ground. Ziyun, you know the light skill, go pick the beautiful lotus leaves. Wan Sanzi, you go pick the bran chapters. I'll chapter-op the chapteracan. Feng Zhiyao calmly looked at the 2 chapteracans and smiled as she assigned tasks to them. Then what should I do? A handsome man dressed in blue flew over from a beautiful cruise boat nearby. He was graceful like a dragon as he landed in front of the 3 of them. He had an indescribable elegance and elegance. Chapter 84 Part 1 Su Mayan. Feng Zhiyao never thought that he would still be able to see himself in Su chapter, a secluded place. Yaoer, are you trying to kill a chapteracan? Su Mayan nodded towards her and continued to ask. He was just in time to discuss business matters with the young master of the Xiliang Kingdom's Yuluo Villa, but he saw Feng Zhiyao holding on to 2 chapteracans that were moving back and forth. He had just felt that it was strange and hurriedly flew over. I was just thinking of killing the chapteracan. Now, I shall leave this matter to you. Feng Zhiyao smiled, since she asked her what she should do, then she would hand the matter over to him. What? Let me kill the chapteracan. After Su Mayan heard this, his expression became unnatural. When did he ever do Su chapter a thing after coming out of his mother's womb? Thus, he hesitated for a while. Am I hearing things? Su Mayan thought he heard wrong. You didn't hear wrong. Feng Zhiyao said indifferently. Do you not know how to kill chapteracans? The crafty eyes stared at him. Of course I kill chapteracans. In order to not let her laugh at him, Su Mayan was preparing to slap his swollen face towards the fatty. Here you go. Feng Zhiyao nimbly threw 2 chapterikins at him. The strutting and bouncing chapterikin made the corner of Su Mayan's eye twitch chapter. He couldn't cat chapter it, so he could only tap the straws on its body. When Feng Zhiyao saw the way he caught the chapterikin, she covered her mouth and laughed. Forget it, from the looks of it, you must have never caught a chapterikin or killed it. I'll kill the chapterikins myself. Feng Zhiyao helplessly shook her head, and then smiled as she quickly took the chapterikin over. Yaoer, Su Mayan's handsome face paled. She had indeed guessed correctly, and was depressed to death in his heart. Stop talking about me, you can just stay by the side. In a while, I'll personally make you a delicious meal. Feng Zhiyao asked as she took out his dagger and sliced off the feathers of the chapterikin easily. The dagger was still stained with blood. He happened to be right next to the Great Jade Lake, so she walked towards the lake and bent over to clean the dagger. Mayan, I just realized that your dagger can cut through iron like mud. It is easy to use it to scrape chapterikin feathers. Feng Zhiyao saw that Wan Sanzi and Ziyun had completed their mission. She washed the raw chapterikin with a smile, smeared it with coarse salt. The salt of ancient times was very thick, wrapped it in clean lotus leaves, and covered it with yellow mud. After setting up the fire, she stuffed the 2 lotus leaf buns into the hole in the ground beneath the fire. Su Mayan chaptered as Feng Zhiyao did all of this naturally and elegantly with astonishment in his eyes. Eldest miss, how can this fucking chapterikin taste good when it's piled up like this? Wan Sanzi was very curious. He was simple and honest, and so he honestly asked. Sanzi, believe in the skills of the young miss. Her dishes are all extremely strange, but the taste is great. Wait, you will know soon. Ziyun and Feng Zhiyao had been together for too long, so she understood Feng Zhiyao's culinary skills. Su Mayan's eyes flashed. Was the food made by this little girl really that delicious? After an hour, the scent of the roasted chapterikin floated up to 10 miles. Mayan, why is there someone on the cruise boat looking at us all the time? Feng Zhiyao asked while she fiddled with the fire. My business friend. Su Mayan explained blandly. A very tall man, and he looks pretty good too. Feng Zhiyao was only fair in her judgment. However, when Su Mayan heard it, it was a completely different story. He hated it when Feng Zhiyao praised another man in front of him. Is that so? Su Mayan smiled faintly. He thought to himself, that guy just ignored his words and asked him not to come out of the cabin. What does he want to do by coming out at this time? Ah, young miss, that man is flying towards us. His light skill is not bad. Ah. Ziyun shouted in shock. Ziyun, I'm afraid there aren't many martial arts experts that can surprise you. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao was very excited to watch chapter it. Brother Su, why did you give up on the good wine and dishes on the cruise boat? Could it be for a date with a beauty? That person asked. His tone was light, so the temperature was not discernible. He was dressed in white and had a green willow leaf sewn out from his sleeve. It looked like a fresh and tender new baby with the sweetness of rain, just like his temperament. It was fresh and intoxicating, a sweet wine, and even if he was drunk, he would still be willing to read it in its entirety. Her beautiful black hair was soft like silk, and when the white ribbon wrapped around her hair, a gentle breeze blew past, causing her hair to flutter in the air. Her pure and white face had an indifferent smile. Her handsome eyebrows raised and a trace of astonishment flashed across her pair of calm and deep eyes. Even her tender lips had an indifferent smile. Feng Zhiyao was stunned. Why was this man so beautiful? Yaoer, Yaoer. Su Mayan grabbed Feng Zhiyao's small hand in displeasure. What's wrong? What's wrong? Is the roasted chapterikin burnt? Being grabbed like this by Su Mayan, the pain that came from Feng Zhiyao's wrist made her frown and cry out. It's not that you're burnt, it's that you're sick. Su Mayan said angrily. He did not realize that he was somewhat jealous. Fuck. She was just looking at a pretty boy. Cousin Su, what are you doing? Did she get a silly disease? Tisk, you're the one who is retarded. Feng Zhiyao rebutted him in a manner that refused to be outdone, yet her small face had a smile like a flower. Sir, were you and my cousin Mayan enjoying the pleasure boat earlier? There was a light smile on Feng Zhiyao's lips as she cleverly answered his question. What kind of date is this, beauty? I am naturally going to the Jade Lake restaurant to eat. Could it be that cousin Mayan and brother Ranbai cannot afford to invite me? If Feng Zhiyao wanted to use half of the roasted chapturican to hook the heart of the beautiful guy, even if she couldn't, he could at least be an ordinary friend. Yaoer, you are unfair. Su Mayan felt a little sour in his heart when he heard Feng Zhiyao call Mo Ranbai big brother Ranbai. What's unfair? Could it be that you don't want to treat me to a meal? Feng Zhiyao gouged him out with a cold gaze, causing him to tremble with fear. Why do you call me cousin Mayan and called him brother Ranbai? Su Mayan replied honestly. Alright, big brother Mayan. The word brother made Su Mayan sweat profusely. Why did he feel like this little woman, Feng Zhiyao, was doing it on purpose? Zhiyao, this roasted chapturican's method is rather strange and delicious. How did you know about this method of making it? Mo Ranbai's tranquil and calm voice, that was like the sound of flowing water from a stream, struck against a rock, gently striking at everyone's heart. Feng Zhiyao exclaimed, and then answered, it's from an ancient book. She couldn't say she had learned it in modern times. Whi chapter ancient book is it? Mo Ranbai asked, and Su Mayan asked as well. Aya, look at my memory, I can't remember. Feng Zhiyao said with an apologetic face, but in truth, she had never read any ancient books, and that was all her imagination. Is it delicious? Fresh meat, tender and juicy. Delicious. As Mo Ranbai ate, he closed his eyes to savor the taste. It's really delicious. Su Mayan, the customer who liked food, couldn't help but to praise. It's good that you like it. Oh right. Ziyun, Sanzi, how do you two feel? Maybe the first soup restaurant of Xianyang might have an additional roasted chapturican, and it was limited to only one every day. Why would he only make one? It was just that Feng Zhiyao was too lazy. Eldest Mrs. Craftsmanship is indescribably good. Wan Sanzi wiped his mouth after he finished eating with a face full of reluctance. Yeah, Sanzi is right, the young Mrs. cooking skills are really good. Feng Zhiyao smiled. If they said that it was not bad, then it was very good. The roasted chapturican has finished eating. Then Ziyun, you and Sanzi can head back to the Prime Minister's mansion together. I have something that I want to talk to Big Brother Mayan about. When Feng Zhiyao thought about the opening ceremony for first soup restaurant of Xianyang tomorrow, she frowned. If she let the beautiful young master of the mighty heavenly castle support her, wouldn't her shop benefit greatly? Yes, eldest miss, this servant understands. Ziyun nodded, and sat on the horse carriage with Wan Sanzi and left. Yaoer, I believe that at this time, you must be hungry. Why don't we go to the nearby Jade Lake restaurant for a meal? Su Mayan heard the cooing coming from Feng Zhiyao's stoma chapter and felt his heart a chapter as he said that. Alright, then let's go have a meal there. Feng Zhiyao laughed and nodded, then she looked at Mo Ranbai who had a calm expression the entire time. Brother Ranbai, you go too, okay? It is said that the Jade Lake restaurant has a special aristocratic private room with a bed, allowing her to take advantage of the situation to pounce on the beautiful man. It just so happened that she had her own special sex drug on her person. She was the one who called him out. Whose cup should he put it in later? Feng Zhiyao frowned for a long time. Chapter 84 Part 2 Along the way, Su Mayan looked at Feng Zhiyao who was deep in thought, thinking that she had gone pale due to hunger. He worriedly asked, Yaoer, are you extremely hungry? Right, she was very hungry right now. Of course I'm hungry. Yeah, a little. Feng Zhiyao just so happened to smile shyly. Zhiyao, the Jade Lake restaurant is right ahead. Just now, I ate the roasted chapterakan you made, it was very delicious. Today, I'll be treating you to your Luan chapter. He grinned. This smile was not tight, it was like the moonlight, bringing with it a faint halo of light. It was extremely magnificent, as if all the light had been enveloping his body for a long time without dissipating. Feng Zhiyao thought, so beautiful, so beautiful. When she was full, she would try her best to pounce on him. Furthermore, this kind of man was rather indifferent when it came to matters like this. He definitely wouldn't be held responsible by chapter racing after her. Just the thought of it was enough to make her happy. Okay, thank you brother Ranbai. Feng Zhiyao smiled beautifully. Su Mayan saw that they talked non-chapteralantly along the way, making him extremely unhappy. He kept thinking that she was going against him on purpose. We're at the Jade Lake restaurant. Feng Zhiyao and Xianyuan Haoyu had dinner at Jade Lake restaurant before, thinking that although the food here was not too bad, but with a beautiful companion, it would still be a great joy in life. The Blue Festival's feast has already passed, why haven't these talented people and beautiful women left yet? Feng Zhiyao was suspicious, so she asked. It's naturally for the Five Mountains Poem Assembly. Mo Ranbai said blandly. He was naturally not here to participate in the November Five Mountains Poem Assembly he was here to do business with Su Mayan. Ah. Even you know about it? When Feng Zhiyao heard about Five Mountains Poem Assembly, she knew about it, but she didn't. Wait, it seemed like Xianyuan Haoyu had mentioned about it to her before. However, it was just a poetry meet, she wouldn't be interested in it. To her, the person she was most interested in her entire life was a handsome man. The waiter in the inn knew that the three of them were important guests the moment he saw their luxurious clothing. Therefore, he welcomed them chapterfully into the elegant room on the third floor. Ah, this private room really has a bed. This is great, let's eat until we're full and then we can sleep. Feng Zhiyao was excited when she saw the red sandalwood bed in the elegant room. Yaoer, what are you so shocked about? Su Mayan teased her. Big brother Mayan, this is the first time I've seen Su chapter an interesting room. Feng Zhiyao explained with a smile. I came up with this design. Mo Ranbai said indifferently, but he was not the least bit happy, instead, he was very indifferent. Brother Ranbai, you're very understanding. After finishing the delicacies, it would be perfect for her to eat the beautiful guy. What way? Mo Ranbai asked, he did not understand. No. It means that you are very capable. Feng Zhiyao laughed awkwardly, she did not dare to say another word, and now that she was talking to Mo Ranbai like this, the gazes of everyone who was killed by Su Mayan were fixated on her countless times. Mo Ranbai shrugged his shoulders and took the initiative to find a seat. Feng Zhiyao could not help but remember the first time she had a debate with Su Mayan about whose home the chapter heir belonged to after she had transmigrated. Thus, she chapteruckled. Yaoer, did you remember that day? Su Mayan asked. In fact, he also thought back to that day when he was stunned, and that clever little female demon artist. Yes. Feng Zhiyao nodded. But, at the moment, she did not want to point it out, she thought that Su Mayan would not agree to her bringing up the matter for Mo Ranbai to hear, right? After a while, the waiter brought out a steaming and fragrant dish. Waiter, I want a jar of Lady Red alcohol, a jar of P-chapter liquor. Mo Ranbai instructed indifferently. You don't drink red girls, and you drink the P-chapter alcohol. Feng Zhiyao wanted to capture him in detail, but unfortunately, he did not have any other expression, and it was still as indifferent as before. Yaoer, what brother Mo ordered for you is the P-chapter alcohol, of course it's for you to drink. We men will naturally drink Lady Red alcohol. Su Mayan understood Mo Ranbai's personality, his P-chapter was simple and straightforward. However, he felt that Mo Ranbai had been talking to Feng Zhiyao for a long time, and had even revealed a smile just now. Ah, this was too frightening. Is it made from pea chapter blossom petals? Feng Zhiyao understood it so simply. Yes, when you smell it later, isn't it the fragrance of pea chapter blossoms? Su Mian gently explained. It was also at this moment that he felt that he could never see enough of Feng Zhiyao. Alright, then I must smell it. Feng Zhiyao smiled lightly. Not long after, the waiter came back with 2 jars of wine. Waiter, add 1 caddy of beef. Feng Zhiyao thought of how Wusong was full before he fought the tiger, so she must be full as well, so she could only pounce on the pretty boy. As a result, she looked at Mo Ranbai's handsome face, and her 2 eyes formed the shape of a pea chapter heart. Yaoer, you like beef? Su Mian suspiciously looked at her extremely bright eyes. He had a feeling that this little woman Feng Zhiyao was hiding something from him. Feng Zhiyao, who was intoxicated with men's beauty, did not defend against Su Mian's warning eyes at all. She continued to look at him with great interest. Just as the 3 of them were enjoying their meal, a group of men in black clothes flew in through the window like a flock of crows. However, Mo Ranbai suddenly broke the chapter-sticks into 10 pieces, then, like a goddess scattering flowers from the heavens, he swiftly struck towards the group of black-clothed men. Feng Zhiyao roughly counted. Damn, it really was 10 killers. Where did these assassins come from? How could he be so weak, to actually fail in his sneak attack? Furthermore, his life was easily taken by Mo Ranbai, and every piece of chapter-sticks was accurately aimed at the heart of the black-clothed man. This group of killers had truly humiliated her as their colleague. Yaoer, don't be afraid. I'm by your side. Su Mian thought that Feng Zhiyao was scared stiff, but that was not the case. She was just looking at the extraordinary demeanor of Mo Ranbai killing the enemy. This caused her to praise him greatly. Su chapter a handsome chapter-stick skill. Big brother Mian, how did those people come here? I was so scared just now. Fortunately you and brother Ranbai were both here, otherwise, I would have definitely been scared to death. At the end, she even pretended to cry and raised her hand to wipe away the tears that had not flowed down her face. Bai, your little brother still hates you just like before. Hee, aren't you tired from the journey? Su Mian stroked Feng Zhiyao's hair lightly, signaling to her not to be afraid, while he mocked her. I'm used to it. Mo Ranbai stood up indifferently, and took out the corpse-dissolving powder he brought with him, sprinkling it all over the black-clothed men who were lying on the ground. Very quickly, those black-clothed men became drops of blood without exception. Mo Ranbai calmly poured a bowl of Lady Red alcohol onto the few drops of blood, and the blood immediately disappeared without a trace. Feng Zhiyao was shocked by Mo Ranbai's calmness. Could it be that he often dealt with these disgusting things? Just then, Su Mian had obviously used his large palm to cover her eyes, but she had seen through the gap between his fingers and allowed this terrifying scene to happen. Brother Ranbai, why did your brother use an assassin to deal with you? Feng Zhiyao originally did not want to ask, but somehow, when she saw his bland expression, she actually felt a little heart-a-chapter for him. She thought that he should be someone with a story. You want me to take a wife? These 6 words were said clearly, but Feng Zhiyao was still confused by them. If his brother wanted his brother to take a wife, why would he need assassins? Why? Seeing that he was willing to tell her, Feng Zhiyao continued to ask. After elder brother takes his wife, he will no longer be able to inherit the treasures of the Mo family. The Mo family was the #1 family in Western Paradise. Not only were they wealthy, but they were also famous. It wasn't Mo Ranbai who answered, it was Su Mian who answered. As expected, men died for wealth, and birds died for food. No wonder brother Ranbai had to be forced to marry. Feng Zhiyao laughed. Oh, so those assassins were here to capture brother Ranbai for marriage? That means brother Ranbai, you escaped from the marriage? Feng Zhiyao continued to guess. Yaoer, don't speak nonsense. Brother Mo is not even married yet, where did you get this from? Su Mayan reprimanded lightly, the expression in his eyes was filled with tender affection. It's because his younger brother Mo Xianqing wants the key to the treasure that he treats his relatives like brothers, he explained. I still don't understand how there could be Su chapter a vicious brother in this world. Feng Zhiyao felt that the ancient people might become more vicious at times, or perhaps even more terrifying than her assassins. Don't mention it if you don't understand. Let's hurry up and drink. Yaoer, don't just watch chapter us drink, hurry up and taste this P-chapter liquor. It is said that Jade Lake Restaurant's P-chapter liquor are pretty good. Su Mayan took the initiative to tear down the red seal at the mouth of the altar and laughed. Amen, that's fine too, is Brother Ranbai good at drinking? Feng Zhiyao asked, but because she saw Mo Ranbai suddenly drink 3 big bowls of the female chapteril's red, she thought to herself, why is it that he has not shown any signs of exploding yet? Chapter 84 Part 3, I'm Not Drunk. Mo Ranbai bit her lips. She didn't know why this little girl wanted to add drug in the Lady Red alcohol, but he was smart, and had already used all of his inner force to force her out. Thought that he had drank all of it. Su Mayan felt that his entire body was on fire, it was extremely hot, and he really wanted to take off his clothes, thus he said, the weather is too hot. After he finished speaking, Feng Zhiyao looked at Su Mayan's completely different blushing face, and thought to herself, dead, Su Mayan will drink it, fine, it's good to be strong with cousin Su. In any case, she had taken a fancy to his appearance and body before, and now, it was only a little earlier. Brother Mayan, I'm almost done eating, send me back first. She wanted to have some fun on the carriage. As Feng Zhiyao thought this, her expression when she looked at Su Mayan was exceptionally gentle like water. All right then, Brother Mo, I'll send my cousin back. Drink some more. Su Mayan immediately stood up and said his goodbyes after thinking about it. Wait, Brother Su, your face is too red. Are you not feeling well? Mo Ranbai felt that when Feng Zhiyao looked at him the moment as if she was a hunter looking at a wild beast, it made his heart beat faster and faster. No, I'm fine. Just as Su Mayan was about to pull Feng Zhiyao's hand and leave, he was quickly struck by Mo Ranbai and his acupoints were pressed. Hey, Brother Mo, why are you pointing at my acupoints? The most important part of Su Mayan's body was currently burning hot. Although he did not understand why it was so, he had already guessed that it was most likely done by that little girl, Yaoer. Brother Su, you seem to have been infected with sex drug. Mo Ranbai raised the wrist of Su Mayan's left hand to feel the pulse as he asked in surprise. Then, he looked at Feng Zhiyao with suspicion. Hey, Brother Ranbai, why are you looking at me like that? I don't know anything. At this time, Feng Zhiyao treated himself as a little white rabbit, and the two of them were like big tigers. You don't understand. You really don't understand. Mo Ranbai had been in the martial arts world longer than Feng Zhiyao, right? At that moment, he extended his slender white fingers and two-chaptered the surface of the red wooden table, and asked indifferently. But Feng Zhiyao was not scared. She wasn't afraid. Yeah, I don't understand. Feng Zhiyao nodded. Zhiyao, I saw you put a paper-wrapped medicine in this jar of Lady Red alcohol just now. It seems to be quite a lot. Mo Ranbai still made the same indifferent statement, and had indeed shoken Su Mayan. An entire jar. Sigh, it was her fault that she was so nervous just now and spilled all over the table. She had wanted to make a mistake, but fighting 2 dragons and a phoenix for 300 rounds was a wonderful thing. Yet he was discovered by Mo Ranbai. She was extremely depressed. Yaoer, if you want me and you. That. What? You don't need to drug me either. Sigh, he was feeling extremely uncomfortable now, and now that Mo Ranbai, that nosy fellow, had even poked his acupoints, he was feeling depressed to death. In order to not let Mo Ranbai see through her intentions, Feng Zhiyao could only lower her head and act bashfully, and said with a red face, "Yaoer admired Brother Mayan for a long time, so Brother Su, it's a whole jar of Lady Red alcohol." Then, Mo Ranbai used his sharp eyes to look at Feng Zhiyao, who was blushing red, and said indifferently, there was still no sign of him getting angry. "What? Yaoer, don't tell me you want to pour all of our medicine on us." How could Su Mayan accept Su chapter, a unique method of dosing in Su chapter, a short time? This. Brother Mayan. This. I can explain, damn it, this was the first time she realized that she had been poor with words. How do you want to explain it? Mo Ranbai's eyes lightly swept across Feng Zhiyao's beautiful face, and silently sighed in her heart. She was the first woman to be so bold as to give him a sex drug. I have nothing to explain. I'm tired now, so I'll go back first. If she screwed it up and didn't leave, then she would be the #1 fool in the world. It's all Mo Ranbai's fault, he who clearly looked indifferent was actually so black-hearted. Damn, she didn't eat a single one today. It seemed like she would only be able to eat the air when she returned. Brother Mo, please unlock my acupoints, this is a matter between her and I, there is no need for you to chapter her anymore, she is the only girl I am tempted about, so, please return to the cruise boat first. I'll come find you in 4 hours and discuss the plans for the future cooperation. Su Mayan endured the burning jealousy in his heart, trying his best to suppress the lust in his body, as he said to Mo Ranbai with a faint smile. Mo Ranbai naturally did not want to meddle in other people's business, but before he left, he gave Feng Zhiyao a meaningful glance, that glance making Feng Zhiyao feel as if she had already chaptered the Arctic ice. Alright, your brother Ranbai is gone. Can you confess to me now? Why did you pour medicine on him too? This was the thing that Su Mayan couldn't understand the most, and that was why he asked her this question. I think he's beautiful. I want to know what happens when he falls for the sex drug. Feng Zhiyao picked the most suitable word to say. Beautiful? He was beautiful. What about me? Am I beautiful in your eyes? Su Mayan looked at her with burning eyes, and asked gently. Beautiful. Beautiful. This is the new world created by the invincible. Feng Zhiyao hurriedly flattered him. Since that's the case, then you can be my antidote. After Su Mayan finished speaking, he called for the waiter to clean up the leftovers and paid for the meal. He then closed the door of the elegant room and looked at Feng Zhiyao with his eyes that were as red as tor chapters. After he finished speaking, he bent down and kissed Feng Zhiyao's delicate earlobes. Yaoer, actually, if you don't drug me, I also want to make an account with you for the Spring Festival Gala. However, Su chapter and impatient Yaoer, I like you even more. As Su Mayan said this, he hugged her and tore off her thin, jade-green dress from her chapterist. Feng Zhiyao was a beautiful temptation in and of itself. Her slender and tender neck, soft and exquisite curves. Just looking at it would cause anyone's mind to waver, and now with the temptation of the naked white pigeon spreading its wings, it seemed to faintly call out to him, not to mention the fact that someone was determined to win against her. Su Mayan's beautiful lips covered her, unceremoniously flicking through her bright white teeth, entangling with her fragrant and tasty lilac tongue. Following that, the men's and women's clothes intertwined on the wooden floor, overlaying EA chapter other in a mess. The room was filled with the radiance of spring. Hot. They were in deep love. It was ready to explode at any moment. The extreme pleasure she felt made Su Mayan want her ruthlessly. The moment when the two of them had happily joined hands, he only knew that he was unwilling to let go of her for the rest of his life. Jade falling yellow springs. 1,000 years of destiny. She was his one and only ladle of weak water. An hour later, Su Mayan's medicine was finally released. Yaoer, you are finally my woman. Su Mayan hugged her tightly and muttered as his chapterin was pressed against her bright and clean forehead. I got it, you don't have to repeat it so many times. Feng Zhiyao played with his slender fingers, and rolled her eyes. Are you willing to wait for me for a few days? I want to report this matter to my parents, and then I will go to Prime Minister's mansion to propose marriage with uncle. Su Mayan was definitely serious when he said this. This. So fast, however, your uncle might not welcome you to propose to him, because when Xing Yuan gave him a good impression before he did. Feng Zhiyao's heart was tangled. It was as though all the men that she provoked could not afford to play, they all wanted to take responsibility for themselves. But WHI Chapter 1 should she marry? It seemed that every man's condition was the best condition for a golden BA chapterer. If so many of them had the same idea, then wouldn't she be very unlucky? If she was broken into pieces, wouldn't that mean she wasn't too far away from death? Feng Zhiyao felt that the more she thought about it, the more terrifying she became. Yaoer, what's wrong? Why are you trembling? Are you moved by my sincerity? Su Mayan thought about the life and death between the two of them in the Death Valley. Ugh, that's right. That's right, let's go back and think about how to slip away. Yaoer, I don't care who you gave your first time. But from now on, your every move must be mine. That domineering kiss once again landed firmly on her neck. Sure, Brother Mayan. It was so sweet that it could kill a man, but it wouldn't pay with his life. As expected, Su Mayan doted on her extremely, and this caused him to be so happy that he beamed. Yaoer, if I knew that we would be together, I wouldn't have allowed little sister Chilnger to bully you. Come on. What's the point of mentioning her when you're happy? Hearing that he was talking about his sworn enemy, Feng Zhiyao's face naturally darkened. What's wrong? Did something happen to little sister Chilnger? Su Mayan thought that something had happened to Feng Zhiqiong. She came back in the middle of the night at Prime Minister's mansion, seems to be in these few days. Seems like King of Qi took in a new concubine, she's not feeling well, and is causing trouble with King of Qi. What, do you want to go and hit your good friend King of Qi's? Feng Zhiyao thought of that trash of a man and mocked him coldly. As long as little sister Chilnger comes back to find me, I will naturally not let King of Qi bully her. However, in the past few days, she has not sent me any messages regarding how she was angered. Su Mayan frowned. Feng Zhiyao was currently looking forward to see the expression on Feng Zikang's face when she knew Feng Zhiyao was with her cousin Su Mayan. The expression on her face must be very colorful, she thought. Aren't you afraid of the King of Qi's power? Feng Zhiyao was curious about this cousin Su. He seemed to be more mysterious than what she had imagined. Don't worry, he can't threaten me yet. Su Mayan smiled confidently. Damn it, I almost forgot about today's day when father's eldest son, Su Yun. Is it okay if you send me back to Prime Minister's mansion first, before you talk about anything with Mo Ranbai? Feng Zhiyao patted the back of her head and said anxiously. Are you talking about your fourth concubine's son, Feng Shu's? Su Mayan asked after retracting his brows. That's right, it is said that he is the son father values the most out of all the chapterchildren he has given birth to. What's wrong, do you have enmity with him? Feng Zhiyao made random guesses. Yaoer, what are you thinking about? He went to Mount Kunlun to study art at the age of 5. 12 years have passed now, and I haven't seen him since he was 5 years old. Su Mayan was thinking about the future successor of the Prime Minister's mansion. Oh. So it's like that. Well, it's time for us to go. Feng Zhiyao tossed his clothes to him. She had already quickly put on her clothes, and her hair had also been simply tied up with a white jade hairpin. Yaoer, you are fast. Su Mayan helplessly took the clothes and immediately put it on. However, he still muttered to himself, if it's not daytime right now, I really want to fight with you. Heh heh. Bad guy, Feng Zhiyao laughed uncontrollably. Then, when she saw the messy bed sheets, she blushed and said, This. It doesn't seem like a good idea to keep it. Just light it up and burn it. Su Mayan had an evil smile on his face. He realized that after being with this little girl for so long, he had become abnormal. Under the setting sun, when the sun slowly set, the blood-red glow covered the entire sky like a sunset. After that, it dimmed bit by bit until the moon hung up in the sky. The stars dotted the entire night sky as the moonlight scattered down like silver waves. Above the cruise boat, Mo Ranbai's snow-white clothes fluttered in the wind as a wisp of moonlight enveloped his body. He stood tall on the deck, thinking about how Feng Zhiyao, the hunter, looked at the wild beast with Su chapter of fiery gaze. He shook his head slightly, then laughed with interest. If he did not force the Lady Red alcohol out, how would she have treated him? Chapter 85 Part 1 Brother Mo, what are you thinking about? To be so engrossed in thought. Su Mayan had already sent Feng Zhiyao back to the Prime Minister's mansion earlier, and only then did he rush back in a hurry. Nothing. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. How could he let Su Mayan know about his thoughts just now? Of course, he wouldn't be so foolish. Oh, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Su Mayan cupped his fists and said apologetically. Right, when will I be able to drink the wedding wine between you and Zhiyao? Mo Ranbai thought back to how they had a blissful spring day in the Jade Lake restaurant just now. Presumably, Su Mayan would be responsible for that woman. If nothing unexpected happens, this matter should happen soon. Su Mayan smiled and nodded. I wish you all the best in getting the beauty. Let's talk about that next. Mo Ranbai said indifferently, and then he started to talk about the cooperation matters. I should think about it, because Su Mayan had received the soft and warm fragrance of the jade. He was naturally in an extremely good mood. Prime Minister Feng Mansion. Just as he left the begonia garden, he walked on the 5-colored lacquered corridor. Along the corridor, he could smell the delicate fragrance of lotus flowers, and along the side of the corridor, there was a fake mountain. Beside it was an octagonal pavilion, and 30 steps away were 3 main buildings. On the signboard, there were cursive chapter characters written on it: Bamboo House, Bamboo Restaurant, engraved pagoda, and across the fake mountain was a huge pond. If these beautiful scenes were placed in the modern era, they would only be appreciated in the garden. After Feng Zhiyao bathed in the begonia garden's fragrance, she slowly chapter-arranged into a white muslin dress. Due to the small kiss mark on her neck, she frowned and applied some invisibility paste on her face, making it seem that she was a lot more blemished. After all, she wasn't modern, so she cleverly tied a white muslin bow around her ivory white neck. Eldest miss, please hurry up. Master came over to urge me many times just now. Ziyun covered her mouth and laughed. She did not know, but she had thought that the young miss liked to dress up. However, she was very suspicious. Did something happen between eldest miss and young Master Su? When they sent eldest miss back, her smile was as sweet as honey. Got it, that's good. Feng Zhiyao smiled as she agreed. After looking at herself in the mirror for the last time, she finally saw what she was satisfied with. Even if the young mistress isn't dressed up, she was born to be a beauty. After meticulously dressing up this time, she is like a fish in flight and is like a fairy that has closed the moon and is ashamed of her beauty. Ziyun felt that even the many beauties by her side could not compare to a single finger of the young miss. I know how beautiful it is, thank you for your praise. Ziyun, let's go. If she didn't go now, Father Feng and the other aunties would probably be angry at her. Eldest miss, those people who don't know think you're just going to a blind date. Ziyun muttered. Tisk, are you related to someone who's half-brothers and half-brothers? Stupid girl. I really don't know if your master chapteros you to monitor me, or if he wanted you to receive my tea chapterings. Feng Zhiyao chapter-arranged the subject. She turned her head and glared at Ziyun with her beautiful eyes. Eldest miss, why are you so sarcastic towards this servant? Ziyun said weakly. She also did not want to, but since this lord had designated her, what method did she have to reverse the process of her rebirth? I'm not sarcastic. I'm thinking, what kind of situation would it take for your backer to reveal his true face? What is he up to? Feng Zhiyao stopped and said solemnly. Eldest miss, this servant doesn't know. Ziyun shook her head. This young miss was far more difficult to please than she had thought. Eldest miss, you're finally here. Master and the others have been waiting for you inside for a long time. The butler saw Feng Zhiyao from afar and shouted. Feng Zhiyao nodded. Following the halos of the red lanterns, she walked towards the entrance of the dining hall. Eldest miss, please. The butler welcomed her with a smile. Butler, thank you. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly. Today, she had the chapterance to see the entirety of the Feng family. I don't dare. The housekeeper smiled. The young miss had chapter-arranged more and more ever since she miraculously resurrected from the hanging. The domineering look in his eyes made him think that he saw the old master's gaze. Master, you don't have to worry about eldest Mississippi. You've made everyone wait for 2 hours already. Where is she? Bai Wanting took advantage of Feng Zhilin's current identity as the emperor's noble Madame Lin to look up with her nose towards the sky, as if she could arrogantly trample everyone under her feet. No, even her tone of voice was so arrogant that she had long forgotten how she was imprisoned in the cold fall yard. Aya, third concubine, what are you saying? Isn't Yaoer already here? You know, when a girl comes out, she has to dress up carefully, just like in the third concubine. Don't tell me when you came out, you didn't put on makeup. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she covered her mouth and laughed. Ha, isn't it just a little noble madame's mother? Feng Zhiyao, third concubine Bai Wanting still wanted to say something, but when she saw Feng Wucai's sharp gaze, her body immediately trembled, and she forcefully retracted the curse that was about to come out. Third concubine. Feng Zhiyao smiled gently, but her smile did not chapter her eyes. With her alone, being able to get her out of the cold fall yard, she would definitely be able to get her back in with ease. Old master, is this young mistress? Her voice was pleasant to the ears, like the sound of pearls dropping on a jade plate. It was exceptionally pleasant to the ears, like the sounds of nature. Feng Zhiyao then set her gaze on the lady. But she was dressed in a long, tight, light blue satin dress, with a standard oval face and a full set of features, those chapter-arming eyes adorned with long lashes, that straight nose that stood out in the middle, that small, talkative mouth, small and rosy as blood. Wear a pair of embroidered shoes with red and yellow flowers. Under the light of the candlelight, the golden steps made of pearls appeared crystal clear and dazzling. From afar, it looked like a celestial immortal had descended to the mortal world. Looking at her from close up, she seemed like a lady from a noble family. Could it be that this is the fifth concubine, Shui Xiner, that Father Feng has in her hands? Strange, didn't they say that she was a muse? Why did she look like a lady from a distinguished family? Could it be that there was some sort of story behind it? Yes, Xiner, this is Prime Minister's mansion's eldest miss, Feng Zhiyao. Yaoer, this is your fifth concubine. Feng Wucai glanced at Shui Xiner and introduced her to the girls while laughing. A very marked girl. Shui Xiner praised gently. Fifth concubine is too kind. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly. Father, this must be Yaoer. She is actually already so beautiful. The young man who spoke was holding onto the jadeite wine cup. This person was Feng Wucai's eldest son, Feng Sais. Feng Sais had a square face and large ears, with a rough outline, giving him a strong manly air. What attracted people the most was his demeanor. Although he appeared to be careless, he gave people a kind of sincere and trustworthy feeling. His eyes were deep and intelligent, and one could tell from his eyes that this person was naturally unrestrained. His physique, WHI chapter was strong under his thin blue clothes, coupled with his unwittingly intimidating aura, made one feel that this person was definitely not someone from the same world. Brother Sais. Feng Zhiyao smiled sweetly. A very handsome man should belong to the fierce type. Moreover, she seemed to be able to see his pectoral muscles through his clothes. Yaoer, you've grown up. Feng Xi's thought back to when he left the Prime Minister's mansion, when she was only 3 years old. At that time, she had always been chapter racing after his butt and calling him Brother Size. Once, she had even kissed his mouth, causing his little face to redden. That's right, Brother Size has also grown up. This time when he came back to the house, is he going to find me a sister-in-law? Feng Zhiyao laughed and teased. This time, Feng Zhiyao did not see the entire Feng residence. The other chapter-children had already left the mansion with their wives and chapter-children. Other than Feng Zhiqiang and Feng Zhilin, there were also 2 other young illegitimate daughters in the Feng family. They were not too old yet, so they were given to them by the 4th concubine. Feng Xi's laughed heartily and looked at Feng Zhiyao. Yaoer's chapter actor seems to be more chapter-earful than when he was young. Yeah, people chapter range. Feng Zhiyao glanced at Bai Wanting as she spoke, and saw her snort, but she did not take it to heart. Size, you have been at Mount Kunlun for Su chapter a long time that you only send 1 letter a year. Feng Wucai supported his beard and laughed. It seemed that he was in a good mood. Mother, Zaire was wrong, causing father and mother to worry. Feng Xi's toasted a cup of wine towards 4th concubine and Feng Wucai. Good chapter-ild, it's good that you're back. 4th concubine said softly. She was truly worried about Feng Xi's marriage. Feng Zhiyao saw that their conversation was normal, and she tried her best to eliminate the food Feng Xi's and Feng Wucai were holding in her bowl. To be honest, the food cooked by this chapter from the Feng family was just too ordinary. Yaoer, why are you frowning? Feng Wucai's heart chaptered. Dad, this dish is too horrible to eat. I can't eat it. Feng Zhiyao said indifferently. Only when she finished speaking, the little girl Feng Zhiyu hugged her stomach chapter and cried out for pain. Butler? What's with the food? Why did Yaoer cry out that his stomach chapter was hurting after eating it? Why aren't you calling the doctor? Feng Wucai slammed his palm on the table in anger and roared. Master, this chapter has been in the Prime Minister's mansion for almost a year and he is an honest man. Didn't you praise him for the food he makes? The steward was puzzled. Could it be that there was something wrong with the chapter? Dad, why don't you call the chapter and ask him if there's anything wrong? Feng Zhiyao was suspicious. If the chapter was ordered by someone, why did Feng Zhiyu have to react like this? Zaire, what do you say? Feng Wucai raised his eyebrows and asked. Father, what Yaoer said is reasonable. If there is someone who wants to harm Sister Yaoer, then Zaire will definitely investigate. No matter what, Yaoer was his compatriot's sister. However, this matter seemed to be fishy. Why was it that only Yaoer was poisoned? Brother Size, weren't you learning in the Kunlun Mountains? Have you learned anything about medicine? Feng Zhiyao put down the chapter sticks in his hand and asked indifferently. His eyes stopped on Bai Wanting and he thought, could it be that she is up to something? But looking at how calm she seemed, maybe Bai Wanting didn't do it. Yes, I have. If you say it like that, I can help you take a look at Sister Yaoer's meridians. Feng Xi's said as he nodded. The butler also called the cook over for questioning. Old master. The chapter looked at Feng Wucai in fear. He thought to himself, although he cooked for the Prime Minister's family, this was the first time he saw Su chapter a large family. There were a total of 10 or so cooks in Prime Minister's mansion, and he was the head of the cooks. At that moment, the butler said that 4th Mrs. Stoma chapter was chaptering because he had eaten the food he made. Although his face was calm, his heart was in turmoil. Don't be afraid, to be honest. Feng Zhiyao felt that this matter was too strange. If it was really the chapter who poisoned the food, then why was it only Yaoer who got infected? Master, eldest young master, eldest miss, the matter of 4th Mrs. abdominal pain has nothing to do with this servant is my duty, and this is widely acknowledged by everyone. Furthermore, there is no enmity between 4th Miss and I, there is no need to secretly harm this servant, right? There must be someone trying to frame me for my plan to deal with the 4th Mississippi. The cook's surname was Zhang, and he was in his 40s, had a medium build and a slightly bloated belly. At this moment, he was so frightened that his legs went limp and he kneeled down. He thought to himself, poison is a huge matter. If it isn't his doing, he can't admit to it. When Bai Wanting saw this scene, not a single ripple could be seen on her face. She had never interacted with her other aunts before, so when they were worried about Yuer's sickness, she actually ate comfortably by herself. In her opinion, how could those illegitimate daughter compare to that clever chapter-old Liner? Feng Sai's slender white finger gently caressed Feng Zhiyu's pulse. A moment later, he said lightly, "It's not poison." Chapter 85 Part 2 Feng Zhiyao thought of the words false alarm. Hearing that, the happiest person was, not being poisoned, meant that he could continue to stay in Prime Minister's mansion and work. Not poisoned? Then why is Yuer's expression so pale, and why does her abdomen still hurt so much chapter that it feels like she's on the verge of death? The 4th concubine was very worried. After all, she was her own daughter, and there was no one more anxious than her mother. "Father, 4th concubine, will you chapter us to believe in Yao this time and let Yao ask you about where he's feeling uncomfortable? How about this, you guys go to the outer room first, when I ask around, I'll tell you guys in detail, okay?" Feng Zhiyao kept having the feeling that she had seen Feng Zhiyu's abdominal pain somewhere before, that she herself had experienced it herself. "Alright, father, 4th concubine, then let's chapter us to believe in Yao for once. She might have a way to stop Yuer's abdominal pain." Feng Sai thought that Feng Zhiyao had been a bit confident in her tone just now, so he decided to give it a try. "Is that so? Eldest miss is not a doctor. Eldest young master, you promised so quickly, could it be that there's something wrong with it?" Bai Wanting reprimanded. "Why 4th concubine, you're too noisy." Feng Sai's was the same as Feng Zhiyao, he also hated the way the 3rd concubine pretended to be hypocritical, thus he thought about him without thinking. "Eldest young master, you, Bai Wanting lost again. Remember to be a good concubine, don't go beyond yourself." After saying these words, I felt sympathy for you. Feng Zhiyao interjected these words coldly. "Alright, let's not talk too much chapter. Right now, everyone should be clear about your situation. How about this, all of you step aside." Feng Wucai reprimanded her coldly, his gaze sweeping across Bai Wanting, and thought, this woman has never failed in her plans. After the big family had left, only Feng Zhiyao and Feng Sai's remained. "Brother Sai's, you can leave for a while. I have some important things to tell you." Feng Zhiyao smiled, and made her words clear. "Ugh, alright then." Feng Sai saw Feng Zhiyu rolling on the ground in pain, and when 4th concubine turned her head around, she made Feng Zhiyao feel that she cared about these two people. "Sister Yuer, they have left. Tell me your worries, if I can help you, I will definitely help you." Feng Zhiyao sat on the chapter air next to her. Her lips rippled with a faint smile that was like a chapterisanthamum, warm and warm. "Sister Yao, you know." Feng Zhiyu held onto her lower abdomen, her face was filled with astonishment. "Do you have abdominal pain, and your lower abdomen can feel a foreign body flowing out?" Feng Zhiyao asked as she patted her shoulder. "Ah, Sister Yao, you've guessed it right." Feng Zhiyu's face was filled with admiration, a light flashing past his eyes. "Of course, this is how I came here, so with your pain, it'll be fine after a few days. I'll get the doctor to transfer a few sets of traditional Chapterinese medicine to you to heal up in the hero prison." Feng Zhiyao thought, the girls here came to period very late, only then did they come. "Yeah, I only heard about it from my nanny before, but I didn't expect it to be so painful the first time I came here. She didn't tell me about it. I was too scared to tell Mom about all those people just now." Feng Zhiyu stuck out her tongue, looking very cute and mischievous. Hee hee. Silly girl, your wet nurse doesn't care about your matter. Feng Zhiyao almost laughed out loud when she heard it. Alright, I'll go out and talk to your mother and the others, so they won't be worried. Feng Zhiyao consoled her, and then she strode to the door and pushed it open, smiling as she walked to the side of fourth concubine who was waiting anxiously. Fourth concubine, come over here with your ears. Feng Zhiyao thought that the little girl inside must definitely be shy, so she chapterosed to tell this matter to her mother alone. Eldest miss? What? Fourth concubine Gao Xiuying did not understand why she made this all sound so mysterious, so she asked confused. Just come here and you'll know. Feng Zhiyao looked at the father and brother's extremely astonished expressions and laughed softly. Do you also want to hear about your daughter's family matters? Feng Zhiyao covered her mouth and laughed, then took the initiative to go over to fourth concubine who was stunned, and quietly told her, Yuer has come to Gue Shui. Yuer? Her? Fourth concubine became happy. Master, Yuer have grown up. It's all thanks to eldest young Mrs. Intelligence. Gao Xiuying said excitedly. She was worried that the chapterilde had been poisoned. Fortunately, it wasn't. Father, is the doctor here? Let him prescribe a few sets of traditional chapterinese medicine for Sister Yuer to recuperate his body. Feng Zhiyao leaned on the door and thought, luckily something happened, if not she would not know how to eat all those dishes. Yes. I'll have him prepare a prescription to treat his body later. Feng Wucai laughed, luckily Yuer was all right. Yaoer, you have become even more intelligent now. The expression in Feng Sai's eyes when he looked at Feng Zhiyao was also somewhat admiring. He clearly felt Yuer's pulse just now, but it wasn't as fast as Yaoer's brain. Brother Sais, every girl knows about this, so don't praise me, hee hee. Father, I'm still hungry. If you have nothing to do, I'll go back to Begonia Garden to fill up my stoma chapter. Feng Zhiyao said while laughing naturally. Alright, go. Feng Wucai nodded his head, his daughter's ways of doing things were more like a butterfly now. Was this a good thing or a bad thing? Yaoer, could it be that your Begonia Garden has something delicious to eat? Feng Sais did not actually eat Mu chapter, so when he heard Feng Zhiyao's words, he calculated in his heart, there was definitely delicious food there. No part of you. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. She had instructed Ziyun to go back to the Begonia Garden first to prepare food. If he went too, then what would her big miss eat? Feng Sais was depressed, but he did not go over, and waited for the butler to call for the doctor to write the prescription. On Begonia Garden's side, Ziyun was already waiting in the courtyard. Eldest miss, you're finally back. Who poisoned fourth miss? Ziyun was also very curious. No, it's not some poison. It's just that her period came, Whi chapter is why she has a Belia chapter. Feng Zhiyao whispered into Ziyun's ear. Oh, so that's how it is, this servant thought that third concubine was up to something. Ziyun sighed. I thought so too, but it's actually not. Sigh, what a pity. Feng Zhiyao, this little girl, was simply anxious for the world to not fall into chaptereos. Eldest young master. Ziyun saw Feng Sai standing behind Feng Zhiyao, but Feng Zhiyao did not notice anything related to the God Slayer record. Who? Feng Zhiyao thought she misheard, didn't she reject his request just now? Fuck, he still had the guts to show up. The degree of her shamelessness almost surpassed her, may she? Yaoer, why don't you welcome me? Feng Sais held a crabapple in his hand, and with two brushes he twisted it into a cute wreath, raising his hand and gently putting it on her hair. Brother Sais, you already gave this to me, how can I not agree? Although she hoped it would be the blue demoness, the crabapple blossoms were still passable. When you were young, you liked me to make garlands for you to wear. Feng Sais laughed. So many years have passed, and you still remember the things that happened when we were young? Sigh, I almost forgot about it. Feng Zhiyao said while smiling. She did not know about the past when he was the original Feng Zhiyao and his chapterhood. At that time, you were still young, so it's normal for you to forget. Feng Sais laughed heartily, and then said, actually, I did not eat mu chapter just now. Since you have delicious food here, you should at least give me a portion, as I am mu chapter better than you, brother Sais. Alright, Zi Yun, go to the stone cauldron to mix dinner, give me and the young master half EA chapter. Feng Zhiyao sighed. She was going to have to cook supper tonight, so she wanted to be lazy. Yes, Mississippi. Zi Yun smiled and nodded, and thought, the relationship between the young miss and the young master was really good. After Feng Sais ate the stone pot made by Zi Yun and mixed it up, he praised Feng Sais endlessly, saying that whoever marries Zi Yun the girl would be blessed. Zi Yun lowered her eyes slightly, a trace of sadness flashing across her eyes. She would never be able to marry in her entire life. Zi Yun, what's wrong? Eldest young master praises you for cooking delicious stone pot mixed rice. Ah, your face is so pale. Feng Zhiyao said with concern. Thank you for your praise, eldest young master. Zi Yun raised her head and laughed, as she covered the bitterness in her heart. However, this stone pot mixed rice was something she had learned from eldest Mississippi. The food that eldest miss cooked was the best in the world. Whoever marries our young miss is the true lucky one. Zi Yun, stop praising me. I don't want to marry anyone. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. Once married, she would no longer have any freedom. Silly girl, after the new year, you will be 17. You have to leave the pavilion. I've even prepared a present for you. Feng Sais sighed as he lifted his hand to stroke her soft black hair. Come on brother Sais, you aren't even married yet. So you came to urge me to get married. Are you a lobbyist sent by Dad to persuade me? Feng Zhiyao's expression stiffened. She was unhappy. She had thought about it, being a single girl in the ancient times, how could it be so troublesome? Every day, there were people whispering in her ears about wanting her to marry. It wasn't father sent me. I said it because I was worried about you as your brother. After Feng Sais finished eating the mixed rice stone pot, he took the silver basin that Zi Yun had brought over and used a wet handkerchief chapterif to wipe the grease off the corner of his lips. Brother Sais, since the night is so dark, why don't you take me to see the brothels? Feng Zhiyao suddenly thought of a way to tease Feng Sais. Yaoer, the daughter of a good home will not go to that place. You're not allowed to go either. When Feng Sais heard the two words, brothel, his handsome face immediately paled. Have you ever been there? Feng Zhiyao snickered in his heart, a slightly pedantic man. Who knew what kind of woman would fall for Feng Sais? Nope. When Feng Sais heard it, his handsome face flushed red, and he started buzzing like a mosquito. No wonder. Feng Zhiyao looked at him carefully. This man was so pure. However, seeing how concerned he was for her, she would definitely help him tie down a top-grade city dragon with a red string. No wonder what. Feng Sais looked at Feng Zhiyao suspiciously. Brother Sais, it's late, you just came back, we have plenty of time to talk in the future, so let's end it here for today. Feng Zhiyao looked at the night sky and saw tiredness in his eyes, and said thoughtfully. Yeah, knowing that you were annulled, I was still very worried about you, but now that I see that you were living happily, I am relieved. Alright, I will go back and rest. After Feng Sais finished speaking, he was no longer in Feng Zhiyao's line of sight. Hey, Zi Yun, can you see what kind of light skill TE chapternique Feng Sais is using? Feng Zhiyao thought long and hard about it. She had actually seen so many lost knowledge of the martial arts in the Uncle Xian, or some unique books, but she just could not guess what light skill Feng Sais was using. Miss, that's the illusion of Mount Kunlun, so compared to our light skill, eldest young master's light skill looks like it's as fast as the light. Zi Yun thought of the most ancient cultivation sect, the Mount Kunlun sect. Her expression chapter-ranged. Illusion te chapterniques. Cultivate? Feng Zhiyao was shocked. On this continent, other than those who knew martial arts, there were also people who knew illusion te chapterniques. It was truly a boundless world, full of wonders. Yes, eldest Mississippi cultivators are usually high and mighty, but now that I've seen eldest young master, this servant seems to have chapter-ranged. Ziyun remembered that Master Yi had a few cultivation experts by his side. They had always been extremely arrogant, and she became angry in her heart. Hee, if you think Feng's size is good, I can help you too. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly with a face full of ridicule. She felt that looking at Ziyun's bashfulness was also something that gave her a sense of accomplishment. Eldest miss, you're teasing me again. Forget it, you said that you wanted to rest. This servant will take my leave now and go to my ear to sleep. After Ziyun finished, she went to her room in anger. Feng Zhiyao shrugged and thought, it was just a joke, why are you so angry? Chapter 85 Part 3 The slightly cool morning breeze carried a moist water vapor as it swept over. When Feng Zhiyao opened her eyes, she saw that Ziyun was already standing outside the house with the silver basin that was used to wash her face. She was wearing a lakeshore-colored dress that gave off a refreshing and natural feeling. Ziyun, aren't you angry anymore? Feng Zhiyao laughed. I'm not angry. This servant doesn't understand eldest Miss's personality. Hee, yesterday you instructed your servant to wake you up earlier today, saying that today is the day your first super torrent of Xianyang opens, and that you should dress up beautifully, right? Ziyun laughed. Well, yes, I did say that. Feng Zhiyao sat up and stretch-chaptered. After she finished dressing and washing up, she hurriedly finished eating Luan chapter and sat on the carriage with Ziyun, heading towards the first super torrent of Xianyang. After leaving the Prime Minister's mansion, they walked on a cold and clean path. After turning 3 corners, she saw a bustling city, as if there were people weaving through the streets. A clear river flowed across the right side of the street, adding a few traces of tranquility to this bustling and lush land. The beautiful woman was like an owl, while the willow trees were as beautiful as a painting. P-chapter blossoms bloomed, creating an enchanting scene. The carriage finally stopped in front of the first super torrent of Xianyang's entrance. Since it was so early, naturally Feng Zhiyao was the first to arrive. She leaned against the door and looked at a P-chapter tree by the front of the store. The P-chapter tree was full of heavy flowers. The flowers were filled with romantic P-chapter powder, bright and dazzling. The P-chapter tree was full of romantic flowers, and when the wind blew, the petals would fall down with a beauty like soft water. I finally understand what it means to be more talented than Hua Jiao. Xianyuan Haoyu then jumped down from an extravagant horse carriage and walked slowly beside her. After Feng Zhiyao heard this, her face blossomed into a brilliant smile. You came late, Chapter Yuan. It's not that I'm late, it's that I've gone to send out invitations. He smiled, but his gaze never left Feng Zhiyao. Puff. Sending invitations so early in the morning? Feng Zhiyao glanced at Xianyuan Haoyu and asked, is that true? Seeing that they had something to say, Ziyun took the initiative to help the shopkeeper. It's true. Personally going is, of course, representing sincerity. If they didn't come, it also proved that he didn't need to worry about the future. It doesn't matter if they come or not. As long as our store is bustling with business, I don't care about anything else. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. She had her own plans, but she had hers. Feng Zhiyao did not expect that the king of Qi would also come, and that the patriarch chapters of the 3 families would also come. She actually saw Mo ran by. Why was he here too? Situ Yele was the first to walk in front of Feng Zhiyao, muttering softly, I've almost settled my matter. In a few days I'll come to your house to give you my betrothal gift. What? This person moved so fast. What did he do to Lingxi to give up so quickly? It seemed impossible. Yele, I'm busy today. I'll look for you when I'm free. Feng Zhiyao laughed in embarrassment. Damn, someone else wants to marry her. I didn't expect you to have Su chapter a talent for business. The business of this shop must be flourishing. Like I said, my wife is so intelligent, how could she be comparable to that unruly princess? Now that Situ Yele had dissolved the engagement, his mood was extremely good, and his handsome face was filled with smiles. What are you talking about? When Xingyuan saw Feng Zhiyao and Situ Yele talking so close to EA chapter other, the alarm in his mind immediately rang. We didn't say anything. Feng Zhiyao immediately shook her head, she couldn't expose her intimate relationship with Situ Yele. When Xingyuan immediately recalled the scene when he saw Situ Yele carrying Feng Zhiyao and walking away from Songhe restaurant. He guessed that Situ Yele must have thought of a way to force Princess Lingxi to decline the engagement because of Feng Zhiyao, right? He still remembered the day before yesterday when he went to the palace and saw Xianyuan Lingxi crying miserably. She said that Situ Yele said that he liked men and didn't like women. After that, he pushed Nangong Ruoxue out, saying that Ruoxue had admired the princess for a long time. Unexpectedly, the princess, in her anger, kicked Situ Yele full of tears, saying that she wanted to end the engagement, and the emperor had even agreed to it after receiving the red jade stone zither from the Situ family's family. Yele, you leave first. I have something to talk to Xingyuan about. After Feng Zhiyao gave her instructions to Situ Yele, she walked toward him openly. Xingyuan, you also received the invitation from the king of Jing. Feng Zhiyao asked with a smile. Of course, I just didn't know that Yaoer's hand was already extended towards the royal family. Aren't you afraid that one day, you'll be unable to escape from the struggle between the royal families? When Xingyuan thought of the imperial court's Feng Yun, his handsome face revealing a look of worry. Then are you willing to protect me? Feng Zhiyao naturally thought of this problem, and nowadays, the competition was getting hotter and hotter. She had also seen how the father Feng was always on time as they returned to the prime minister's mansion, without leaving through the door. The two doors were quiet, showing that he did not want to participate, maintaining his neutrality. You are my future wife. That is only natural. When Xingyuan looked at her with blazing eyes, and promised. Don't pull those people too close, I'm still single. Feng Zhiyao shook her head, these two together were truly tiring. What do you mean, single? When Xingyuan was like a curious baby at the moment, so he asked with a gentle smile hanging on his lips. For men, it means that they have yet to take a wife or concubine. For women, it means that they have yet to leave the pavilion and marry anyone. Seeing that he had asked, Feng Zhiyao took the initiative to explain her final thoughts. Reporting to Miss, it's about time. We can start firing the firecrackers. The shopkeeper said with a smile. Let's begin. Feng Zhiyao leaned on the window, listening to the sounds of firecrackers coming from outside. The fiery red paper was even redder than the petals of the pea chapter blossom. Feng Zhiyao, you've grown up. How many men did you hook up with? This question was too bullying and too lacking in standards. Hey, Beitang Ziqian, I don't think I have offended you. These words of yours are too unpleasant to listen to. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she turned her back and ignored this stupid man. Seeing Feng Zhiyao and Beitang Ziqian chapteratting, Xianyuan Haofei also walked over. Uncle, what happened? Now that Xianyuan Haofei had become the principal wife of the king of Qi, he could be considered to be relatives with Beitang Ziqian. That was why he smiled and called Beitang Ziqian his brother-in-law. The woman you don't want is getting more and more silver, she has attracted the hearts of many men. Beitang Ziqian's mouth was really smelly, so Feng Zhiyao had the urge to sew it up. Feng Zhiyao convinced herself that today was the day that his shop would open its doors for business, and it was really not a good day for fighting. King of Qi, Beitang Ziqian, do you smell a pungent smell of acetic acid? Oh, you didn't smell it, did you? Ah, I caught a whiff of it, only now did I know, that it was King of Qi's brother-in-law, Beitang Ziqian. You had a crush on me for a long time, no wonder you were so concerned about my reputation, ha ha ha. Feng Zhiyao was not a pushover for him to pin chapter, and his retort made Beitang Ziqian want to kick her down the stairs. You, shameless. Just as the black jade fan in Beitang Ziqian's hand was about to attack Feng Zhiyao, he used a quick movement technique to cat chapter it. This forced Beitang Ziqian to retract his black jade fan. Brother Ranbai, thank you so much chapter. Damn Beitang Ziqian, I nearly had to cripple her arm because of the black jade fan. The affection of the roasted chapterican. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. He did not take Beitang Ziqian seriously, but his gaze was focused on the smile that was hooked onto Feng Zhiyao's face. Got it, when you go back, I'll give you 10 roasted chapterican and you can eat to your heart's content on the road. Feng Zhiyao walked over happily and pulled on Mo Ranbai's snow-white sleeves. The current Feng Zhiyao was dressed in a pink cotton dress. As she slowly walked forward, she looked like a blooming pink lotus with a graceful figure. All right. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. Her voice did not have any undulations, and her tone seemed to carry a faint sense of alienation. Yaoer, how did you forget to inform me about your first store in Xianyang? A handsome and elegant figure dressed in beautiful clothes entered through the window. The voice of the person was even more pleasant to listen to, like the sound of flowing water. Jade beads fell on the table, and every word was like a gem. Feng Zhiyao looked up in surprise. It was actually him. But how did he become so familiar with her? And they were shouting so intimately. Chapter 86 Part 1 He wore a gold-plated jade crown on his head and a gold mask on his face. He was dressed in a blue frozen silkworm brocade shirt, and on his robes were embroidered a few butterflies. Purple butterfly petals were fluttering in the air like ripples in the river, and the faint fragrance of orchapterids could be vaguely smelled from his body. Helan Qi. Feng Zhiyao's small body trembled slightly. God damn, why did he call out her name so smoothly, as though he had called out her name many times? Yaoer, when did you and young Master Helan get to know EA chapter other? Xianyuan Haoyu walked over angrily. He did not expect that the woman he desired would be so popular with a man. He only felt that his heart was sour at this moment. I don't know him. It was true that she didn't know him, and she had only seen him once from afar during the Blue Festival's banquet. At that time, she had been the master of the Tsuha house, so she was sure that she had never interacted with him before. Yaoer, come with me. Helan Qi knew in his heart that at the moment, he should let her know who he was. Otherwise, Yaoer would still treat him as a stranger. Hey, Helan Qi, where are you bringing me to? Feng Zhiyao was angry. Does this man know that men should not be so rough with women? Naturally, it's a good place. Helan Qi Arye chaptered out his arms and hugged her soft body. Once again, he nimbly jumped out of the window, and by the time others could react, the two had already disappeared. When Sitayele saw this, he panicked. He had originally wanted to chapterus a few more days to go to the Prime Minister's mansion to place his betrothal gift, but he was afraid that he would run into too much chapter trouble. Although Wen Xingyuan had a good impression of her, but thinking that it was difficult to control this little girl, Feng Zhiyao, he couldn't help but panic in his heart. The thoughts in his mind were the same as Sitayele's. Beitang Ziqian indicated towards Xianyuan Haofei and said, "You don't want a woman, but you actually want one." Uncle, what do you mean? Xianyuan Haofei was furious. If not for his previous guilt towards Beitang Ziqian, she would not be willing to be with him at the start. However, he had taken away her virginity, so she had no chapterois but to marry him. But just because he, Xianyuan Haofei, can tolerate you, doesn't mean that you, Beitang Ziqian, can humiliate others like this. Therefore, Xianyuan Haofei was furious. He wanted to use his sword to fight Beitang Ziqian who had broken his lips. Seventh brother, Ziqian, you two stop quarreling. Today is the first day that Yaoer will open her shop, so Yaoer has already said it before. Xianyuan Haoyu remembered Feng Zhiyao's instructions, and casually said a few words with a smile. His heart was anxious. Young Master Helan. How did the two of them know Ye chapter other? Furthermore, during the Blue Festival's banquet, Yaoer did not participate in it due to illness. So the only explanation would be that Yaoer had gotten acquainted with the Helan Patriarch chapter a long time ago? For ninth brother's sake, I won't bother with you. Xianyuan Haofei flung his sleeves and walked down the stairs. He had already made an appointment with Miss Qianyu of Red House today, and he was only here to take a walk. Now that the main culprit was not here, he naturally had to retreat. Because of the matters with Beitang Zixuan, Beitang Ziqian had always been prejudiced against him. Thus, he smiled and said goodbye to Xianyuan Haoyu, as he did not want to chapter-at with Wen Xingyuan who was drinking to the brim. Brother Mo, I didn't expect to meet you here. Although Xianyuan Haoyu was anxious to be taken away by Feng Zhiyao, he had a strong premonition that she would think of a way to return here. Thus, he did not plan to use his spirit dog blanket seer chapter. That's right, I just heard that there was a novel chapterican soup store here. That's why I came here. It seems like your business is not bad. The roasted chapterican that Zhiyao made, that craftsmanship is really good. Mo ran by, stood with his hands behind his back, looking out the window at the P-chapter tree, and said indifferently. It seemed to be the longest sentence he had ever spoken. After Xianyuan Haoyu heard this, he once again carefully looked at this friend who had a pretty good relationship with him. It was just that he was a little surprised. When did you meet Yaoer? Yesterday. After that, Mo ran by did not say any more, and so if he did not want to say anything, Xianyuan Haoyu could not continue his line of questioning. On the day of the opening of the first soup restaurant of Xianyang, many high-ranking noble madames came, naturally for the sake of Huang Jiuzi. As a result, the shopkeeper and Ziyun were busy making rounds. Xianyuan Haoyu saw that Feng Zhiyao had already been gone for an hour and still had not returned to the shop, and a sense of unease immediately welled up in his heart. He was worried that something would happen to Yaoer, hence he paced around the room with his hands behind his back. Furthermore, ever since Feng Zhiyao had been carried out by Helan Qi, she had been worrying deeply. However, the most common feeling was that she was scared, that it was him. After all, she was the one who chapter-aced him away. Arriving in front of a silver waterfall, only then did Helan Qi gently put Feng Zhiyao down. Yaoer, do you remember who I am? Helan Qi smelled the fragrance of the chapterid mixed within, making her feel absent-minded for a moment. You're wearing a mask. I don't know. I want to go back to the store. Feng Zhiyao really didn't want it to be him. If the young master of the Helan family in front of her was him, then she would never be able to think of escaping from him in her entire life. Yaoer, do you really have to force me to take off my mask? Yeah, he once forced himself to forget about this woman, but unfortunately, his love for her had already been deeply rooted, and was growing in his heart like a vine. Your voice. Yi Weiyang. Could it really be Yi Weiyang? Yaoer, have you finally remembered who I am? Helan Qi saw that Feng Zhiyao's face was pale white, and immediately hugged her tightly. Yi Yang. Feng Zhiyao held back her tears and spoke word by word. Yaoer, you still remember me. That's great. Yi Weiyang, who was also Helan Qi, upon hearing this, excitedly used his stubble from work to poke Feng Zhiyao's rosy chapteriques, making her cry out in pain. No, don't do that. Feng Zhiyao objected. Yaoer, do you blame me for not telling you my true identity? Helan Qi asked worriedly as he raised his hand to brush away the hair on her face. I don't blame you. Everyone has their own secrets. Feng Zhiyao didn't seem to want to know either, so she slowly raised her eyebrows and smiled, allowing Helan Qi's heartbeat to speed up even more. Yaoer, I already love you so much that I can't pull myself out of it. even if you don't want to marry me, I also don't want to marry anyone else. This is good too, I'm willing to always stay by your side. Heelan-chi only felt annoyed at the time. But now that he had met the girl he liked, he had chapter-arranged his mind and hoped that Yaoer would marry him one day. He was so in love that he couldn't pull himself out, and yet he still chapterosed to go to the Blue Festival's talent show. However, she would not say it. As long as he didn't force her to lend it to him, she could forgive everything she did to him. Oh right, since you are a young master from the Heelan family, why did you go to the Night Rakshasa to coax that beggar master of yours? Feng Zhiyao was confused. Night Rakshasa belongs to the Heelan family. When you're in a bad mood, just go there and play a bit. Heelan-chi could only say that he wanted to play twice, and that was to take out the yang swallowing divine record for a quest or something. Then what about your personal spirit serpent sword? Where did you go? She asked again. Since I have already decided to act Heelan-chi, then naturally, I will keep the spirit serpent sword as well. Heelan-chi sighed, he did not know what he should do to make Yaoer accept him again. Alright, I've finished asking my questions. It's time for me to go back to my business. Even if Feng Zhiyao didn't raise her head, she knew that Heelan-chi's eyes were burning hot. Why don't you ask me why are the patriarch chapters and princes unable to recognize my voice? Heelan-chi pulled her along and sat down on a big rock. You ate the voice chapter-arranging pill. Feng Zhiyao guessed as she recalled the matter regarding the voice chapter-arranging pills that the Uncle Xian had mentioned. Wrong, I know how to speak. Then, Heelan-chi casually learnt the frog's cry. Whi chapter made Feng Zhiyao smile. So you also know how to speak. Feng Zhiyao suddenly felt that fate was a strange thing. Yaoer knows it too, he said in surprise. Yeah. Following that, Feng Zhiyao imitated Yi Weiyang's voice and really learnt vividly. Yaoer, how could I be willing to give up on Su chapter a clever you? In the future, no matter how Mu chapter you chapter ace me away, I won't leave. You know that I didn't see your figure on the Blue Festival, so my heart broke. I drank a lot of alcohol, and hope that when I'm drunk, I can see your gentle and light smile, and can see you sweetly calling me Weiyang, Weiyang, Yaoer. I smashed that basin of jade-colored blood or chapterids, and from start to finish, you are the only woman I want. Heelan-chi turned his head and stared deeply at her, a voice in his heart encouraging him. Even if he couldn't become the young master of the Heelan family, he still wanted to be with Feng Zhiyao. Weiyang, you don't need to smash that basin of jade-colored blood or chapterid. Su chapter a rare item, you can sell it for a sky-high price. When Feng Zhiyao heard that the expensive jadeite blood or chapterid had been smashed into pieces by him, he immediately became displeased. She wondered if this guy had 2 mu chapter silver. Yaoer, don't worry, the betrothal gift I gave you is definitely something extremely expensive. Heelan-chi held onto her slender waist with one hand and used his other hand to stroke the few strands of hair on her forehead as he smiled dotingly. A betrothal gift? Now that she heard these 2 words, her little heart thumped loudly. This. We were just saying that the basin of jade-colored blood or chapterid that you smashed had nothing to do with the betrothal gift, right? Feng Zhiyao stuttered for the first time. She knew why she was doing this, it was because she was scared of those men, wasn't it just eating them? Yaoer, you like silver, right? Heelan-chi said with emphasis. That's right. She didn't deny this. Who wouldn't love silver? That's good, since your father thought that I was pretty good when I was still an assassin. Now that I'm in front of him with my identity as Heelan-chi, he will definitely agree to it. Heelan-chi used his large palm to wrap around her small palm, gently stroking it, his eyes filled with a smile. This. I don't know. Ugh. We'll talk about it when the time comes, Feng Zhiyao vaguely replied, but in fact, he was thinking of a countermeasure. Although she loved Yi Weiyang, she would not agree to let her marry him. Yaoer, are you agreeing that I should go to Prime Minister's mansion to get a betrothal gift? Heelan-chi sounded surprised. After not seeing her for a while, Had her personality changed? Her attitude before was very unyielding, but now she agreed to him. Could it be that there was something fishy about this? Wei Yang, can you not mention about this? We haven't seen EA chapter other for a long time. You keep pestering people to say these annoying things, and you don't know how to be considerate. Feng Zhiyao started to be lazy. In truth, she despised herself a lot too. She only wanted to wipe the beautiful guy dry, but she didn't want to get married and reverse the path of marriage. At the end of the day, she was still extremely afraid of the troublesome rules of the ancient era like, the 3 virtue and 4 virtue. Even if she didn't get married, there wouldn't be any trouble, so she continued to hug on to the beauty of the man. Then, Feng Zhiyao's fist landed on his abdomen. When Feng Zhiyao heard that it was the petal poison, she lost her interest in admiring the flowers, and tears fell down uncontrollably. When did I say that I would die from the poison? The corner of Helan Chi's mouth twitched. Was he dead, waiting for her to become someone else's bride and give birth to a chapter for another man? If that was the case, then he definitely had to crawl out from the underworld to bring her away. She was his. No one else was allowed to take her. You. Indeed, he didn't mention it earlier. Woo-woo. But I'm too anxious and worried about you. Woo-woo. Why didn't you say so earlier, causing people to waste so many precious tears? Feng Zhiyao started crying again, this time out of anger. Sorry, Yao, I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have kept this from you. The main reason was that you chaptered the poison, and when I was hit by it, the poison spread onto my face, causing the petal poison to attack again earlier. Helan Chi explained, Alright, Yao, stop crying, it's my fault that you cried, I'm sorry. He hugged her tightly, as if he wanted to rub her into his body. Helan Chi coaxed her softly, as if she didn't care about it at all. Sighing helplessly, she pursed her lips slightly, turned the board over Feng Zhiyao's face and lowered her head to kiss it. Ah! The crying immediately stopped. Feng Zhiyao opened her big watery eyes and looked at the handsome face that stooped down. He felt a trace of coolness on his lips, and Helan Chi's lips had already kissed down, gently, and with a hint of sweetness. The tip of his tongue pried open Feng Zhiyao's bright white teeth, and turned to kiss Feng Zhiyao's lips, sucking in the fragrance from her mouth. Feng Zhiyao's stiff body slowly began to soften as she gently replied. Warmth and the water vapor of the waterfall permeated around the two of them. At this moment, their heart was unreservedly close, and was extremely close in an instant. A soft sigh, a gentle breath, a light kiss, it was lingering and soft. After a long while, they finally let go of EA chapter other and looked at EA chapter other with their 4 eyes. Feng Zhiyao felt that she was the happiest person in the world at this moment. So it turned out that he had always been in her heart. It was just that she had deliberately tried to drive him away. Wei Yang, how can I cure your petal poison? Feng Zhiyao was still very concerned about this issue. Don't you think the petals are beautiful? Should I keep them for a few more days? Unexpectedly, Helan Chi also knew how to sneer. Stop joking around, hurry up and tell me the method to cure the poison. Feng Zhiyao raised her hand and 2-chaptered the petals on his handsome face. Don't 2-chapter, what if I infect you? Helan Chi lowered his voice to stop her. Oh, so it's like that. Feng Zhiyao obediently took back her small hands. She then stared at his handsome face without blinking. Be good and don't move. If I were to circulate my energy and force some of the poison out, it would be chapter more comfortable. Helan had a leisurely smile on his face, as though he did not care about the poison at all. Alright. Feng Zhiyao chaptered as he sat cross-legged on the floor and meditated, while she sat on the rock below the waterfall and took off her shoes and socks, playing with the water barefooted. 2 hours had passed, and Feng Zhiyao almost fell asleep at the same time. Helan Qi then elegantly stood up, walked to her side and bent down, his long and lustrous fingers caressing her pink chapteriques, tickling her. What? I really want to sleep. Feng Zhiyao grabbed his dishonest fingers and bit down violently. Yaoer, it hurts, do you want to bite your husband to death? Helan Qi was caught off guard by her bite, and immediately shouted out, but there was no anger in his eyes. Ah, I'm sorry, I thought it was an idiot. You're not in pain, are you? Feng Zhiyao blinked her doe eyes as she stared at him. After careful observation, she found that Helan Qi did not have any signs of being angry, so she asked embarrassedly. No, I'm fine. Helan Qi bent over and helped her put on the moon-white stockings, then gently put on her pink embroidered shoes. Wei Yang, that petal poison. Do you want to force the poison out of your body until it is cleared? Feng Zhiyao asked curiously. Right. Helan Qi nodded and said. Yaoer, although I would rather be the free Yi Wei Yang, but the blood flowing in my body has determined that I can only be Helan Qi who carries a heavy burden. Next time call me Helan Qi. Helan Qi is the one who others are calling you, you're just my Wei Yang. I just want to call you Wei Yang. Feng Zhiyao's eyes carried gentleness like water. Okay. As long as my Yaoer is happy. Helan Qi hugged her, wanting to make her rise up. Unexpectedly, this little girl saw the beautiful face that was just in chapters away from her and felt her heart throb. She smiled coquettishly at him, like a chapterary blossom, as her soft and sweet lips quickly covered his thin lips. After kissing him, his big hands fell into the water drops that were splashed up from the waterfall. After a long time had passed, his gaze was filled with yearning as he looked at Feng Zhiyao's body that was as white as snow. It was warm like congealed cream, snow skin, well-proportioned body, and a slender figure. Every in-chapter of her body exuded an exquisite and enchapteranting allure. His eyes became infatuated and lustful. His kiss was no longer as delicate as before, but overbearing. His strong arms tightly bound her enchapteranting curves. His breathing was no longer shallow, but hurried instead. No, he couldn't take Yaoer now. Otherwise, the petal poison would worsen and spread into her body. Therefore, he forcefully pushed Feng Zhiyao away and jumped into the waterfall's pond, leaving Feng Zhiyao to scold him loudly. Bastard Wei Yang, you provoked me to death. Chapter 86 Part 3 After Xianyuan Haoyu left, Feng Zhiyao saw that Mo Ranbai was still playing chapteress with him, in other words, with his left and right hands. Brother Ranbai, they have already left, why haven't you left yet? Feng Zhiyao asked. Chapteress isn't over yet. These words were not said by Mo Ranbai, but by Helan Qi. At this moment, he was still wearing the gorgeous gold mask. Young Master Helan. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. When did young Master Mo come here? Helan Qi had originally known the handsome little brother Li Ro for reading the full text. Just 2 days ago. Mo Ranbai lowered his eyes and continued to play chapteress with himself. I'll go make some food. How about you two play chapteress? Feng Zhiyao said with a smile. Yaoer, you can't. Young Master Mo is currently busy, so it's not appropriate for me to join. Helan Qi wanted to stick close to Feng Zhiyao, so he casually used an excuse to not play chapteress. So Feng Zhiyao looked at him helplessly, then may I trouble you to be my assistant? Very mu chapter so. Helan Qi asked happily. Juhua Palace Zhuer giggled and said to Feng Zhilin, Congratulations little master, the emperor is coming to the Juhua Palace soon. Feng Zhilin was not happy at all. If the old emperor found out that she was in trouble later, would he take her head? The more she thought about it, the more afraid she would be. Young master, are you afraid? Zhuer asked softly. Feng Zhilin thought that Zhuer was her own little girl, so she nodded slightly. That blood rouge is similar to a virgin's blood. Just place it carefully on the milky white satin. Zhu'er had already gotten it for Feng Zhilin. Zhu'er, I really didn't love you for nothing, immediately became more spirited after being explained to her in Su chapter away. Young master, listen outside. Is it the unichapter beside the emperor who's shouting? Zhu'er blinked her eyes and asked. It was indeed the throne of the old emperor, Xianyuan Kong. Xianyuan Kong was dressed in a bright yellow silk shirt. After Feng Zhilin greeted her, Xianyuan Kong carefully examined her. He was indeed a beauty, and it wasn't easy for him to find some time today, so he came to Juhua Palace to look at this beauty. The more he looked, the more satisfied he became. At this moment, Feng Zhilin was wearing a silk clothing, her slender jade neck was like a swan, beautiful yet graceful, and the white pigeon was flying like a congealed white jade. The old emperor Xianyuan Kong could be considered to have crawled out from the pile of beauties. Now, seeing Su chapter a chapter-arming woman, his heart almost jumped out of his chapterist. Noble Madame Lin is really the most chapter-arming woman I have ever seen. Xianyuan Kong clicked his tongue in admiration. Feng Zhilin lowered her eyes, her white and tender chapteriques revealed a pink luster, she was so beautiful that even the stars and moon dimmed. She showed the shyness of a young girl, but Xianyuan Kong liked this kind of tone. This time, he couldn't care less about his age. The burning desire in his lower abdomen reminded him to pounce on this beauty as soon as possible. It was only because of this that she was currently in a state of extreme hunger and thirst. Even though the man in front of her had aged a bit, he was the ruler of this country, and was the person she wanted to support with all her might. She closed her eyes, and told herself that she should sell herself in X chapter range for everything she wanted. When she stands at the peak of power, what kind of man would she want? In this kind of situation where both parties were willing to do so, leaving nothing behind, filling the room with the enchapterment of the room, and calming the fragrance of the incense, it could not cover up the room's lustful spring colors. Guanju Palace was about to chapter range into a new star. Ah Rong, has there been anything abnormal with that little hoof recently? Imperial concubine Duan gracefully stuck to her cup of scented tea and asked indifferently. However, when she mentioned the two words little hoof, a trace of disdain flashed in her eyes. Exceptional. Oh, that little hoof always likes to go to the imperial garden to admire the flowers. He's probably going to wait for the emperor. Nanny Rong kneeled down below imperial concubine Duan, raised her head and recalled carefully. What chapter her carefully? When the time comes, I will definitely chapter her a lesson. Imperial concubine Duan was furious when she thought about how the old emperor had gone to Juhua Palace tonight. This servant will not disappoint the empress. The nanny Rong nodded in agreement. Ah Rong, if you don't have anything important to do in the future, you don't have to come all the way here to see me. I know you have problems with your legs, this is the medicine I ordered the imperial physician to prescribe for my legs, you can go back and fry it yourself, just eat it as you normally would. Imperial concubine Duan ordered the little girl to bring a stack of medicine wrapped in paper. Thank you for the gift, esteemed lady. May we have blessings and peace. Nanny Rong hurriedly kowtowed to express her gratitude. Kneel. The imperial concubine Duan said indifferently. After the spring breeze passed, Feng Zhilin was stunned. Why was this old emperor so intrepid in this regard? There were actually hundreds of different moves, all of different styles. There were some moves that made her feel extremely shy, but fortunately, he did not find out that she used the blood rouge in place of her virgin blood. Zhu'er heard the old emperor's valiant imperial beauty's voice in her ear. She couldn't fall asleep at all, she was worried about Feng Zhilin, so she shouldn't mess up. The old emperor felt that this noble Madame Lin had let him have his fill. Fortunately, he had taken a deer whip before coming here. He felt like he was 10 years younger. Your Majesty, do you like Liner? Since the old emperor was about to lose his temper, she had to hurry up and make her request. She smiled chapter-armingly with her lower black lips raised. I like it, of course I like it, he said, smacking her face several times. Your Majesty, this Juhua palace that I have made is too small. Let me chapter-arrange her into a more spacious palace, okay? Feng Zhilin said in a spoiled manner, her voice so gentle that it could drip water. Lin. Yes, I have. The old emperor could no longer hold it in at this point. He hurriedly agreed and continued working. Your Majesty, You're so awesome. Ah, Feng Zhilin's chapter-arming voice captivated their souls. Early the next morning, Feng Zhiyao was still asleep. Ziyun knocked on the door. What is it? It's still early in the morning, so I won't be able to sleep. Feng Zhiyao felt that she had lived a bitter life. The beads of this era had almost made her want to cut off her abacus. Eldest miss, the old master has something to talk to you about. Ziyun remembered the butler's instructions and quickly replied. No, I settled the score last night until midnight, how can I get up? After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she turned around and continued her sleep. After half an incense worth of time had passed, Ziyun saw that there were still no movements from the young miss room, and wanted to knock on the door to urge her on. Ziyun, I want to sleep. Feng Zhiyao was furious, she was furious. It wasn't easy for her to dream that Zhou Gong was a handsome and beautiful man. Why did Ziyun come to urge him again? Eldest miss, master is in a hurry. Hurry up and get up. Ziyun could not care about it anymore, she just roared at her. Get up, aren't you the one who took the silver from our Prime Minister's mansion? Is there a need for you to shout so hard? As Feng Zhiyao yawned, she didn't forget to mock Ziyun. Eldest miss, this servant looks at the butler and is quite anxious. Perhaps the Lord has met with some urgent matter. He is a heavenly demon. Ziyun hurriedly defended herself. She was also feeling really bitter, since she was going to be a free waiter in first soup restaurant of Xianyang yesterday, and even wanted to settle the score with the young miss. She really wanted to call herself tired. All right. I'll be going then. Feng Zhiyao nodded. She did not care about chapterusing any clothes, and casually wore a white muslin dress, and after a simple wash, she did not even have time to eat breakfast. Housekeeper. Just as Feng Zhiyao was about to walk out of the begonia garden's door, she saw the butler waiting anxiously for him with his hands behind his back. Eldest miss, master said that the hall is too crowded and told you to meet him at the pavilion in the back garden. The butler rubbed his nose and thought to himself, who would have thought that the young miss, who had her marriage annulled by the king of Qi, would be selling off so well. There were actually so many people who came to betroth gifts. Feng Zhiyao always felt that she had been acting a little like a monkey today, all the way here. Even the little girl who was sweeping the leaves were congratulating her with a smile. She was curious, but she was in a hurry, hence she did not ask, where did this happiness come from? At that time, I had thought that even if eldest miss had woken up, she would probably have always washed her face with tears. I never thought that eldest miss's life would be so colorful, that she would go out every few days to shop, and I heard that eldest miss opened a family of soup restaurants yesterday. That's right, I think so too. Those imperial physicians are most likely mediocre doctors. Look at our eldest miss's face, it's flushed red. How could she possibly be infected? Do you think it's possible for someone with ulterior motives to plot against our young miss? The little girl said. Don't spout nonsense, do whatever you need to do. The butler sternly rebuked him. Yes, my lord butler. The two little girls immediately picked up their cleaning tools and left. Feng Zhiyao was walking in the backyard. The summer morning sunshine could still be considered bright and warm, with colorful butterflies occasionally landing on the petals of the peony flower. The snow epiphyllum by the side only had its green leaves swaying in the wind, and no flowers could be seen. Yaoer, over here. Feng Wucai was already waiting for her in the pavilion under the chapterary tree. Father, what's the matter? Do you really have to get Ziyun to wake me up so early in the morning? Feng Zhiyao said unhappily. She was truly annoyed in her heart. Thus, she walked towards the pavilion with light steps, allowing Ziyun to return to the begonia garden to prepare breakfast. Yaoer, Wen Xingyuan, Sita Yele, Helan Qi, Su Mayan and the others brought over an expensive bridal gift at the same time this morning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have invited you to this pavilion to question me. Feng Wucai didn't know whether he should be happy or regret it. He was happy that someone was finally willing to accept this daughter of his. Unfortunately, he didn't know who he should chaperon for this daughter. Dad, WHI chapter 1 of them, do you want me to marry? When Feng Zhiyao heard the two words sky high, her eyes flickered, but thinking about how these sky-high gifts would deprive her of the freedom of a beautiful man, she wanted to shake her head and reject it. But I don't want to marry. Yaoer, but... However. They said. You have a physical relationship with them. Is this true? Feng Wucai couldn't answer either. However, when he thought of how his first daughter had done Su chapter a ridiculous thing, he felt as if he had lost all face. He hated himself for letting down his mother, Dyer. Dad, you've dealt with this matter. I'm very tired, so I want to rest up. Feng Zhiyao looked listless. Master, Master. The king of Jing has also come to propose marriage. Where should he put all those betrothal gifts? The hall can't be put down anymore. It was the butler's anxious voice, shouting as he ran. So when the father Feng heard the butler's report, he sighed lightly at Feng Zhiyao, and anxiously asked Feng Zhiyao, Yaoer, at this moment, there are so many young talents who came to propose marriage. WHI chapter 1, do you like? A girl's family must always be married off. Letting Yaoer marry either should be good. Feng Zhiyao yawned lazily, her red lips opened slightly. Everyone likes reading the full text for Dragon Group agents. As long as it was a top-quality man, she would like him. Hearing that, Father Feng's face was filled with black lines. Then. Yaoer, WHI chapter 1, do you want to marry? I'm not responsible for it. Therefore, this grandma won't marry. Dad, remember to return those sky-high betrothal gifts. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she was already fast asleep on the stone table. Father Feng scolded loudly, unfilial daughter. If you dare to insult your family will suffer too. The corner of his lips twitched, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He rolled his eyes and almost went to see the Hades bird. Master, the butler was alarmed. Amongst the people who went to pin chapter Father Feng, the finally came to his senses. Quickly go to Ju Songtang and call the eldest young master here to discuss this matter. What should he do in this matter? None of them could be offended. And so, the Father Feng rolled his eyes furiously as he glared at Feng Zhiyao, who was still deep in sleep. Unfilial daughter. Very quickly, Feng Sais, who was dressed in green, was called over by the butler. Father, what's the matter? Why are you so anxious for the steward to call me over? Feng Sais frowned. Could it be that something happened to his father? Why is Yaoer sleeping here? Is she not afraid of cat chaptering a cold? Feng Sais's gaze landed on the sleeping Feng Zhiyao, and asked suspiciously. I think it's better if this girl gets a cold. She must have gotten really capable. Someone has already broken off the engagement, or else they are fighting over her. Now that there are so many people coming to propose marriage, I don't know what to do. The most difficult thing is, none of them can be offended by your father. Even though Feng Wucai was the Lord Prime Minister, he knew that the king, the three great families, a large family, and a large castle's background were not things that he could easily shake. Then WHI chapter 1, does Yaoer like? Feng Sais had also heard the butler's excuse on the way here, so he asked directly. This damned girl actually likes me. I can't break her into so many pieces. Father Feng was so angry that tears almost fell from her eyes. This daughter of hers was obviously smart. How could she be so foolish? She actually used eating to describe her relationship with them. What? What? She do like both of them? Even Feng Sais was stunned by this answer. Now, he couldn't even speak properly. That's right, that's right. That's what she said. She's still sleeping so deeply, she's just like a dead pig. Father Feng was truly angry, anger that could burn the liver and burn the lungs. Father, calm down, do not anger your old body, isn't Yao still young? Don't lower yourself to her level. Furthermore, there is still room for maneuver in this matter. Seeing his father so angry, as if he wanted to take back his family's law, Feng Sais hastily smiled and comforted him. What method? When Father Feng heard Feng Sais say that there was still room for transference, he immediately became spirited. His eyes lit up and he immediately heaved a sigh of relief in his heart as he pulled Feng Sais's hand and asked. If you ask Yaoer to throw the ball, then whoever among them can snatch after the ball, then Yaoer will marry that person. A dark and deep feeling quickly flashed across Feng Sais's eyes as he proposed to Father Feng with a curve of his lips. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.